Well, what about Shepard? Earthborn, but no record of his family.
Doesn't have one. He was raised on the streets, learned to look out for himself.
He saw his whole unit die on a cruise. He could have some serious emotional scars.
Every soldier has scars. Shepard's a survivor.
Is that the kind of person we want protecting the galaxy?
That's the only kind of person who can protect the galaxy.
I'll make the call.
In the year 2148, explorers on Mars discovered the remains of an ancient spacefaring civilization. This has been heralded as the greatest discovery in human history, which enabled travel to the furthest stars. The basis for this incredible technology was a force that controlled the very fabric of space and time. The civilizations of the galaxy, though, simply refer to it as Mass Effect. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Backlog Battle. I'm Tennessippi, and today we're going to be talking about one of those games that I've been meaning to get around to and playing forever. Somehow, since its launch in 2007, I've avoided this game almost in its entirety. So going in, I know nothing really aside from the name of the main character and that it's a space game. I decided to play this title after speaking with a coworker who's a huge Mass Effect fan. They said they play the series about once a year, and due to the fact that the guy's committed enough to walk around with an N7 phone case on, I figured it's time to go ahead, hop in, and see what this one's about. I'll be playing through on the Xbox 360 version of the game, even though there is a remake available which combines the first 3 games together with a ton of DLC. I decided to stick with the 360 version as I already own it, and you guys know how I like playing games on the time-appropriate hardware. Now when I hopped into this one, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. The lore in the game comes fast and heavy, and I really tried jumping into it head first as it's such a story-heavy game. I wanted to soak up as much of the lore as possible, and I thought it was really cool how the characters have established histories and have already taken part in important events prior to you ever meeting them. So bear with me, because in this video I'm going to explain as much of the overarching story as I can. I also go through quite a few side quests, so it might feel like I'm jumping around a bit, but I wanted to present the game in the same order that I played it, because that's the way these games go. Rarely do people end up doing side quests at the same time during their playthroughs. After starting the game, you take control of Lieutenant Commander John Shepard, executive officer aboard the SSV Normandy, the only ship in the Alliance fleet with experimental stealth technology. Being Earthborn and having never known his parents, he joined the Alliance military when he came of age in search of a better life. Volunteering for an expedition on Akuza, a lush world on the outskirts of Alliance space that had recently dropped out of contact, he became the sole survivor of 50 Marines after coming under attack by the mindless abominations known as Thrasher Maws. They struck from beneath the earth without warning, and this propelled his career, making him somewhat of a legend. Under the leadership of highly decorated Captain Anderson, you've been sent on a routine mission to Eden Prime, a peaceful, stable colony on the outskirts of the hostile Terminus systems to test out new stealth technology. After speaking with the crew, though, it becomes apparent that no one thinks you're there for a simple technology test. Not with a Turian Spectre on board, and being under the command of such a highly decorated commanding officer. Prior to reaching Eden Prime, you speak with Captain Anderson and learn the real reason of the mission. A research team on Eden Prime has unearthed a beacon during excavation. It's thought to be created from a long-extinct race called the Prothean. Having vanished 50,000 years ago, the Prothean technology, when last found, advanced humanity 200 years. It's still in use today in the form of mass relays and a giant ship called the Citadel, which is the home of a multi-species council. The council dictates interstellar policy in which the Human Alliance is looking to join. Ilos, an agent from the Office of Special Tactics and Reconnaissance, or Spectre, serves the Citadel Council as an elite military operative granted authority to operate above the law. Spectres derive from Council races, but due to the Human Alliance looking for a larger role in shaping interstellar policy, they seek to have a human serve as one as well. Ilos has nominated you to the Council to be evaluated as a Spectre. His involvement in the mission is not only due to the importance of returning the Prothean beacon to the Citadel for further investigation, but also to evaluate you as a potential Spectre member. Due to the proximity of the lawless Terminus system to Eden Prime, the Council wants to ensure discretion as to not send out a red flag, as the importance of a discovery this big would be worth the cost of a large-scale war. Prior to arriving, Joker, a lieutenant and the pilot of the SSV Normandy, relays a transmission from Eden Prime. It's a distress call, and the colony is under attack, taking heavy casualties. In the distance, you see a giant ship landing prior to the transmission cutting out. Being 17 minutes out, and with no other Alliance ships in the area, Nihilus comes up with a plan for a small strike team to secure the beacon, drawing minimal attention. The Normandy is then able to approach the planet undetected due to the stealth technology and drop the strike team. Nihilus drops first to provide reconnaissance and intelligence, and you lead the team accompanied by Staff Lieutenant Caden Alenko and Corporal Richard L. Jenkins. Landing on Eden Prime, you're dropped on a cliffside that overlooks a vast expanse covered with green fields and pillar-like structures that extend upwards into the sky. Nihilus informs you that the colony has been hit hard and there are hostiles everywhere. You're taught the basics of equipping weapons, which is done by holding the left bumper, which allows a radio menu to pop up, and you can select an active weapon for each member of your squad. Each member has 4 weapons at their disposal: a pistol, assault rifle, shotgun, and sniper rifle, and you can quickly change the weapons of your squad to best meet whatever challenge you're facing. It doesn't take long before you're discovered by Geth recon drones, and Corporal Richard Leroy Jenkins pulls a classic Leroy Jenkins move and runs out of cover, getting himself taken out. You're given the option of whether you want to bury him or not, and due to the fact that the mission is time critical and of such importance, I decided to leave him and push on. This early encounter is your first opportunity at combat, which plays out in a third-person shooter format. You do have the ability to command your squad to do things such as move to a position, wait, attack a target, or to regroup. This gives you more tactical control than most shooter games, but not nearly as much as a top-down strategy game such as Dragon Age Origins. Leveling up gives you and your squad access to abilities which can be used in combat by holding the right bumper and issuing commands. Unlocking abilities is done by using talent points in different categories. For example, upgrading the assault rifle skill leads to the overkill ability, which makes firing the weapon generate 40% less heat and cost 20% less accuracy. Weapons in the game don't use a typical ammunition magazine, but rather they overheat if they're fired too frequently, which results in a cooldown period before being able to fire again. Not every talent point unlocks an ability, and as you further progress in the assault rifle category, your damage and accuracy are improved. Abilities are annotated by a triangle, while reaching a plus sign opens up a secondary talent category, meaning to access the sniper rifle category, you must first upgrade the assault rifles to rank 7. Healing characters is done through the use of skills or by using Metagel, which is a consumable that heals the entire party when used. In the menu, you're also able to change the gear on any member of your squad, as well as modify weapons by adding mods into one of 2 slots. Moving towards the dig site, you come across Gunner Chief Ashley Williams. She's being attacked by Geth recon drones, and nearby you watch Geth troopers impel someone onto a spire, who then start to attack you. After taking out the Geth, she says her and her squad were patrolling when they were attacked. She was able to get the distress call out before the Geth cut off their comms. Her and her squad tried to get back to the beacon, but she believes she's the only one from her squad that survived. She thinks the Geth must have come for the beacon, as they haven't been seen outside the Veil for nearly 200 years. I have her join us, and she ends up leading us to the dig site. Later on, I learned that the Geth were artificial intelligence created by a race called the Quarians, for tools of labor. When the Geth showed signs of self-evolution, the Quarians attempted to exterminate the Geth, but the Geth ultimately ended up winning the war. Individually, they aren't too impressive, but due to having a distributed intelligence, when their numbers and proximity increase, the intelligence of each individual improves as well. The Veil Chief Williams was referring to is the Perseus Veil, which is a dark, obscuring, dark nebula of opaque gas and dust that lies between their space and the Terminus systems. So to see them in Citadel-controlled space is quite surprising. The spires that the Geth are using to impel people drain water and other trace minerals and replace them with cybernetics, which reanimate the life form into a mindless killing machine. Arriving at the dig site, you're taught how to enter combat to allow you to use high and low cover to shoot. You're also instructed on throwing grenades and using a running technique called Combat Storm, which will automatically rifle butt enemies as you run by them. Once we look around, the beacon has been moved, and Ashley suggests we look for it at the research camp. We do a mini-game called Decryption to access a locked container. Decryption requires you to have someone in your squad with a high enough rank of the talent to start. For decryption, you're shown buttons that flash in, and you have to respond by pressing the corresponding button. If you fail or don't have a high enough rank in the talent, you need to use a resource called Omnigel to open it, which is acquired by breaking down weapons and armor. At first, I felt like the decryption was really hard. I failed the first 4 attempts before figuring it out, and I mean, there really is no secret here. The button flashes, and you have to press it. But the speed of it really threw me off at first. But once I figured out I was going too slow, didn't have any issues throughout the rest of the game. I make my way into the container by breaking down weapons and armor to get enough Omnigel to hack the decryption machine. And I find 2 doctors in the container who tell me that the beacon was moved to a spaceport this morning, and though one of the doctors is really shook up, they tell me that the leader of the Geth was a Turian. I ask about the beacon and am told it's a data module from a galaxy-wide communications network, and the technological advancements from it will be astounding. The other doctor disagrees. He insists we have unearthed the heart of evil and awakened the beast and the darkness. After speaking with the doctors, we head towards the spaceport and see Nihilus meeting with someone named Saren, another Turian. Confused, he asks Saren what he's doing here because this isn't his mission. To which Saren replies, the council thought he could use some help on this one, but while Nihilus has his back turned, he shoots him. After hearing the shot fired off in the distance, we approach the spaceport and see a ship departing the surface of the planet. It lets off a terrible noise while it departs, and after fighting a few more Geth and Husk, we approach Nihilus's body. Then suddenly a man named Pal pops out, who is hiding behind some shipping containers, and tells us what happened. He lets the characters know the name of the other Turian was Saren, and that he and Nihilus appeared to know each other before Saren shot him. He tells us Saren was heading to the beacon, which is located on the other platform, and we should take the cargo train as it's the fastest way to follow him. After we fight our way onto the train and head towards the beacon, you see Saren inform some Geth soldiers to set charges to blow up the colony. He wants to destroy any evidence of their involvement. He then approaches the beacon and starts to levitate as if it's interacting with him in some way. In this area, you have to fight your way around finding the charges and disabling them before the timer runs out. While fighting Geth troopers, shock troopers, and snipers, I had to redo this area a couple of times because I was still getting used to the combat system and have the game set to the hardest difficulty. It's not that the game is overly difficult at this point, the controls, running especially, just feel a bit dated. After clearing the area, Saren is nowhere to be found. I approach the beacon and interact with it, and Shepard tries to make a call to the Normandy. During this time, Ashley starts to get sucked towards the beacon, as if it's interacting with her the same way it did Saren. But Shepard runs over and pulls her away from it, and then gets raised into the air himself, just like Saren did. Visions flash in his head, and then he blacks out, prior to the beacon exploding.
Shepard! No, don't touch him! It's too dangerous!
The ship that was seen leaving Eden Prime is now shown flying through space, and we see someone named the Matriarch talking with Saren. She tells him they identified the ship that landed on Eden Prime as the Normandy under command of Captain Anderson, and that they were able to save the colony. Saren asks what happened to the beacon, to which she says it was used by one of the humans. Saren becomes extremely upset at this point and says the human must be eliminated. Shepard then wakes up aboard the Normandy, accompanied by Dr. Chakwas and Ashley.
I think he's waking up.
The doctor says he was out for 15 hours, and Ashley says she must have activated some security field when she approached it. I tell her she had no way of knowing that was going to happen, and not to worry about it.
How are you feeling?
They end up telling you that the blast knocked you out
How
cold,
long was I out?
and that the Lieutenant Caden and Ashley carried you back to the ship. The doc says you're fine, but she's noticed increased brain activity and rapid eye movement, which is associated with a REM sleep cycle. Shepard ends up telling everyone that he saw death and destruction. It wasn't dreaming, it was more of a vision, but nothing's really clear. Anderson then enters and wants to talk to Shepard in private. He tells him Ashley is reassigned to the Normandy. He says things look bad. Nihilus is dead, the beacon is destroyed, and Geth are invading, and the Council's gonna want some answers. He says Saren is a Spectre, but if he's working with a Geth, he's probably gone rogue. Saren hates humans because he thinks we are growing too fast and will take over the galaxy. He asks if I saw anything and know why Saren would be after the beacon. So I tell him about the vision I saw, which was synthetics or the Geth or something else, slaughtering humanity. Anderson says we have to report it to the Council. Whatever information was there, Saren took, and he has an army of Geth, and he won't stop until all the humans are destroyed. That's why we need the Council on our side, because as a Spectre, he reports solely to them. So they are the only ones who have the ability to cancel his Spectre status. He's going to contact Udina, who serves as the human ambassador to the Council, and get us an audience. Meanwhile, he wants me to inform Joker to bring us back in a dock at the Citadel. You then see Joker make his approach into the Citadel, which is a massive ship consisting of a central Presidium ring, which contains embassies and residences for the elite, a Presidium tower, which is where the Citadel Council meets, and 5 wards that act as self-contained cities, housing a population of 13.2 million. While inbound to the Citadel, you can catch a glimpse of the Ascension, which is the flagship of the Citadel fleet. Upon arriving, you see Ambassador Udina talking angrily to the Council. He's looking for support due to the Geth attack on Eden Prime, but the Council says humans were aware of the risk when they went into the Traverse, which is a section of space that, while is officially claimed by the Citadel Council, also has many planets and systems that are under Terminus control, resulting in raids. He then demands action about Saren, to which they say they will discuss at the hearing and that the CSEC is investigating the charges. CSEC is the Citadel Security Agency led by Executive Palin. It's a volunteer police service consisting of 200,000 constables that report to the Citadel Council. You then speak with the ambassador, who isn't exactly happy about the entire situation, because it can threaten the opportunity for you to join the Spectres, and thus human relations with the Council. He and the captain then depart and tell you to meet them at the Citadel Tower for the hearing. This is the first part of the game that isn't on rails. You're allowed to explore the Citadel, and while doing so, you encounter several different species, all of which have unique histories, and by interacting with them and reading the information that gets unlocked in the Codex, you really start to learn more about the world around you, its inhabitants, and the events that have transpired to make things the way they currently are. The game doesn't throw all the lore at you at once, but it lets you digest it as you uncover things. There is a lot of information that you probably don't need to complete the game, but if you're into deep diving into stories and find an interest in it, this game really takes the cake for the amount of backstory available from any game I've played recently. I find it really intriguing to encounter all these alien races and learn their history, so bear with me as I jump into the information that isn't part of the main storyline for a bit, and explain a few of the things I've learned up to this point, prior to making my way through the Citadel for our hearing. I'll start with the Council, as it's our next objective and branch off from there. The Council consists of members from the Asari Republics, the Tyrian Hierarchy, and the Solarian Union. And while they have no official power over independent governments of other species, their decisions carry great weight throughout the galaxy. The different races are well suited to lead as they fill different roles. The Asari is an all-female race, which are typically seen as diplomats. They were the first to find the Citadel and proposed the establishment of the Citadel Council. Able to live over 1,000 years, they are able to reproduce with any other race or gender by forming a telepathic link. Their life cycles are broken down into 3 sections. The maiden stage, where they wander restlessly and seek new knowledge, the matron stage, where they produce their offspring, and the matriarch stage, where they typically assume the roles of leaders or counselors. The Solarians were the second species to join the Citadel. They are warm-blooded amphibians with a hyperactive metabolism and thus a short lifespan of around 40. They think, talk, and move fast, and thus other species seem slow and dull-witted to them. During the Arachni Wars, which was the accidental release of an insectoid hive mind-like species, they developed another species known as the Krogan to help exterminate the Arachni. The Krogan later rebelled due to a massive population spike, but were stopped due to the Solarians' development of a genophage bioweapon and the discovery of the Turians. The encounter left the Krogan as a slowly dying off species. The Turians joined the Council 1200 years ago to fulfill the role of galactic peacekeepers. As such, they make up the largest portion of the Citadel Council's military forces. Despite their colonial attitude and autocratic society, they understand they'd lose more than they'd gain if they weren't able to rely on the Solarians for military intelligence and the Asaris for diplomacy. There is animosity between them and the humans over the First Contact War. However, the two species are allies and enjoy civil diplomatic relations. In addition to the council races, there are multiple non-council races that I've encountered in the last 3 hours of gameplay. The Elcor are a large, slow-moving species which uses slight movements, scent, and infrasound to communicate. Due to their difficulty communicating with other species because of their subtlety and monotone voices, they go out of their way to state the emotion they are feeling when they talk. I can really relate to these guys, as I often get told I'm monotone, and people have a hard time telling if I'm being serious or not. The Hanar's homeworld of Kaji has 90% ocean cover and orbits an energetic white star which results in permanent blanket of clouds. Aboard the Citadel, when it was found by the Asari, they speak with precision and attribute being taught the gift of speech by the Protheans, who many of the Hanar worship. They take offense at improper language, and when expected to deal with other species, take courses to help them unlearn their tendency of taking offense at improper speech. The Keepers were aboard the Citadel when it was found by the Asari. They seem to have no purpose other than the upkeep and repair of the Citadel itself. Any communication with them has failed. It's now illegal to interfere with the Keepers, and they have become invisible to the inhabitants who stay out of their way and let them quietly go about their business. The Krogans were a brutal primitive species living on a hostile world due to a self-inflicted nuclear winter. Once found by the Solarians, they were uplifted and taught to build modern technology and serve as soldiers in the Arachni War. During their rebellion, the Taurians used the Solarian genophage weapon, which makes only 1 in 1,000 pregnancies viable. They now harbor a grudge against all other species, especially the Turians. The Quarians live on a flotilla of ships. Resources are scarce, and they make pilgrimages to bring back something of value when they come of age. Looked down upon by the other races due to the creation of the Geth, and their negative impact their fleets have when it enters a system, has led to some speculation that behind their clothes and masks, they're actually cybernetic creatures with a combination of organic and synthetic parts. Lastly, the Volus are a member of the Citadel with its own embassy, but also a client race of the Turians. Centuries ago, they were voluntarily absorbed into the hierarchy, trading their mercantile prowess for military protection. Due to their ammonia-based biochemistry, they are required to wear pressure suits and breathers as nitrogen-oxygen air mixtures are poisonous to them. Like I said, there's an absolute treasure trove of lore in this game, and I'm really trying to do my best to make sure I don't misspeak here. I'm sure there are some of you who have been playing these games for years and know the ins and outs of it, but at this point in my playthrough, I'm about 3 hours in and really trying to do my best to piece it all together. If I do mess something up, I apologize, and please let me know down in the comments. Now that we've covered all the races that I've met during my time on the Citadel, let's jump back in because we've got a hearing to get to. After the ambassador and the captain leave, you can head to the council meeting, or you're free to roam around the Citadel. I decided to look around a bit and explore the ship. I actually love how you can look out and see ships flying by in green fields. The first thing that really comes to mind is the halo rings and how awe-inspiring they were the first time you saw them. Nearby I find a virtual assistant who informs me that located here are all the embassies for each race of the council, as well as the Citadel Tower where the council meets. I head into the embassy and encounter my first Asari, who is a receptionist for the embassy. After speaking with her, I then head upstairs and find Executor Palin, head of CSEC. I ask him about the Spectres. He seems to have a bad attitude towards them because they're above the law. He is a liaison between the CSEC and the Council, and he doesn't trust humans yet because we're all about taking all the power we can get, and lately, we've been given a lot of it. I look around some more and find an L Corps in their embassy. This one is upset because they said someone named the Consort has compromised their authority as a diplomat, but the matter's too sensitive to speak about. Not liking the fact that someone upset my favorite race, I ask where I can find the Consort. He tells me I have to make my way across the bridge, and I'll find her over there. So I go ahead and make my way across the bridge, and am met by a receptionist who says that the Consort won't be available for 3 or 4 months.
Nobody's worth that.
When I go to leave, the Consort radios the receptionist and tells her to let me enter. From what I've gathered, the Consort is a type of oracle character. They say she is whatever a person needs her to be, and if she's unavailable, they match the people with one of her acolytes, who can take care of you instead. Entering in her quarters, I learn her name is Shaira. She says she offers advice, comfort, whatever is needed. She says she has a problem and needs some help. A friend, Septimus, a retired general, and her had a falling out. She wants me to speak with him as he now spends his days in Chara's den, drinking and spreading lies about her. She wants me to speak to him as a fellow soldier, which I assume means beating him up. I ask what happened, and she says she respects his privacy, and if he wishes to tell me, he will. I tell her I'll talk to him, and she wants me to remind him of his honor as a general. After leaving the Consort, I find a shop with a Hanar selling goods. While speaking with it, I learn they refer to themselves in the third person, except for with family and close friends. I don't purchase anything because I don't have a lot of money at this point, so I continue looking around until I come upon Bar Levon, a Volus who serves as a financial advisor. He knew my name and the story of how I survived on a cruise. He's a financial advisor, so it's in his best interest to keep up with important people entering the Citadel. At this point, I look around some more and can't find Cora's den in the immediate area, so I decide to head on to the council hearing before checking out any of the wards of the ship. Making my way to the hearing, I walk through the gardens and find a few monuments. The first of which is a mass relay that has been on the Citadel since the discovery by the Asari. The reason for the Protheans having a statue of their own relay technology is still up for debate, but the leading theories are that it's either a tribute to Prothean vanity, a reminder of their conquest on the galaxy through the mass relays, or a symbol of unity, acknowledging that the relays would eventually lead to other species on the Citadel. The true meaning behind it's unknown, but the mass relays without a doubt have played a pivotal role in the coming together of civilizations. Mass relays are enormous structures that are scattered throughout the stars, and create corridors which allow instantaneous transit between locations separated by years or centuries of travel using conventional faster-than-light technology. Relays come in 2 forms. Primary mass relays, which have fixed one-to-one connection with another relay, and often propel ship thousands of light years, and secondary relays, which can propel ships a few hundred light years in any direction as long as there is another relay within its range. Due to the danger of encountering hostile species, when a dormant primary relay is found, it is left inactive until its partner relay has been chartered. I don't see anywhere where it says this directly, but I do believe this stemmed from the opening of a relay which resulted in the discovery of the Rachni and thus the Rachni War. The second monument I find is to honor the Krogan lost during the Rachni War. Though during the rebellion there were calls to take it down, the council voted against it as it serves as a reminder of the Krogan loss during the 3-century war. Entering into the tower, you take a long elevator to the top, which I believe is how the game is loading in different scenes without taking you out of the game. Exiting the loading screen, or elevator, you encounter Executor Palin speaking with another Taurian named Garrus. Garrus is asking Palin to stall the council and buy him more time. Palin thinks the idea is ridiculous and tells Garrus his investigation is over before walking away. Garrus then approaches and introduces himself as Garrus Vicarian, the officer in charge of the CSEC investigations in Saren. I ask what he was able to come across and if there's anything I should know about, and he says due to Saren's position as a Spectre, most of his activities are classified, so he doesn't have too much to go on. Hayden then tells you the council is ready, and Garrus wishes you luck. Moving up the stairs, you then see Captain Anderson, who says the hearing has already started. You enter the hearing and hear the council speaking with Ambassador Udina. They state the Geth attacks are of some concern, but there is nothing to indicate Saren's involvement. The ambassador pushes back, stating that there was an eyewitness, to which the council responds, the report from a single traumatized dock worker is not enough. Saren is there, via a hologram communication device, and states Nihilus was a fellow Spectre and friend, and that he resents the accusations. He goes on to speak to how humanity isn't ready to be on the council, nor a member of the Spectres, and how this meeting is wasting the council's time and his. Captain Anderson brings up the vision triggered by the beacon, and the council dismisses it as speculation. With nothing else to add, the hearing adjourns and the council denies the petition to disbar him from the Spectres. After the hearing, the ambassador tells the captain it was a mistake to take him into the hearing in the first place due to his and Saren's history. You learn they had served on a mission before, and that the captain saw firsthand how Saren was willing to allow the extermination of innocents to accomplish his goal. He says he must be working with a Geth for one reason, and that's to exterminate the human race. Ambassador Udina says we have to find a way to expose him, but due to his status as a Spectre, he's almost untouchable. Lieutenant Caden brings up Garrus, the CSEC investigator, who was close to finding something. Udina says he has a contact named Harkin who can help us track him down. Captain Anderson disagrees due to the fact that Harkin has been suspended by the embassy due to drinking on the job. Udina then sidelines the captain due to the history with Saren and lets me take over the investigation. I then learn I can find Harkin at Cora's Den and the lower wards. They also suggest talking to Bar Levans, because aside from being a financial advisor, he's a representative for a shadow dealer, someone who provides information without prejudice to the highest bidder. Upon leaving the tower, Ashley points out that someone is up to something suspicious. I find a Salarian crouched by one of the keepers who aren't supposed to be interfered with. I ask what his intentions are, and after trying to hide it, he eventually lets out that he's a scientist trying to scan the keepers in order to learn more information on them. Hoping that I can also learn some more information on the keepers, I tell him that due to my status in the Alliance military, I can scan them without fear of reprisal. He agrees to this arrangement and gives me the scanner, as well as offers to pay me for any keepers I scan. After taking the loading screen elevator back down, I start going back to all the keepers I'd seen up to this point and scanning them. I come across a Hanar who's arguing with a CSEC officer. When I approach the Hanar, I learn that he's a preacher trying to spread the word about the Enkindlers, which I believe are the Protheans responsible for giving the Hanar the ability to speak. The CSEC officer requires the Hanar to have a permit and states that preaching is only allowed in certain areas as to not turn the Citadel into a battleground for a religious war. I offer to pay for the permit, and the Hanar agrees. I'm thanked by both parties and receive Medigel from the CSEC officer as a reward. After scanning all the keepers I'm aware of, I return to talk to Bar Levan, thinking he's going to blow me off because I don't have a lot of money and his information normally comes at a steep price. However, due to the fact that the broker is upset with Saren because of turning on him in a deal, he's willing to pass this message along free of charge. I'm told about a Krogan mercenary who was hired to deal with the situation, and he's currently in CSEC, and if I hurry, I should be able to catch him. So I head to CSEC and see a Krogan named Rex talking to 3 guards. After they're done with their conversation, I speak with them about how Bar Levan sent me. He says we may have a common goal. He says he was hired to kill the owner of Cora's Den because he betrayed the Shadow Broker. The owner was supposed to set up a meeting between a Corian on the run and the broker, but instead contacted Saren. The Corian apparently has information that connects Saren to the Geth, and Rex is under the impression that the Corian is still under the protection of Fist, the Cora's Den owner. He says if I'm willing to help him kill Fist, the Corian is mine. At this point, I'm not sure if the Corian is actually in there, or if Rex is playing me to get help to accomplish his task, but Ashley brings up Garrus, and Rex tells us he was just there, and is head to the medical clinic to follow up on a lead. Rex joins the crew, and we head out to find Garrus before ultimately ending up in Cora's Den, where I should find both Fist and Septimus. Before leaving though, I find Jalid in the CSEC offices. He thinks his business partner is trying to kill him. He doesn't want to give details, and CSEC won't help out further without any more information, so I ask him what I can do to help. He wants me to talk to his friend and tell him to leave him alone. His partner wants to meet him in the wards near the markets. His partner actually turns out to be Chorbin, the Salarian, who asked us to scan the keepers. So I head to the wards via an elevator loading screen from CSEC and end up talking to an Officer Lang who knows me from a Kuza monument. He's only been on the Citadel about a year and is new to CSEC, but he tells me about a new club called Flux and says I should check it out. Continuing towards the markets, I'm flagged down by Emily Wong. She's an investigative journalist who works on the Citadel. She's been hunting for corruption and organized crime, but doesn't have access to certain places. She wants my help and says she'll make it worth my time. I don't want to agree to anything as far as passing information on just yet, so I tell her I'm not making any promises and continue on. Entering into the markets, I talk to one of the merchants and learn about two places in the Attican Traverse. Noveria, which is a cold and snowy planet, and Feros, which is an old Prothean world. The merchant thought I was from there, but was confused because he hasn't had any contact with the planet for some time. I also come across someone named Conrad Werner. He knows me as the hero of Eden Prime and asks for my autograph, to which I give it to him. He says his wife is going to be impressed, and afterwards I got the gut feeling the dude was up to something that's no good. So I checked the journal log, which says, what harm could there be in talking to him? I freaking knew it. The dude was up to something, but I never ended up coming in contact with him again throughout the playthrough, so I'm not sure how that one's supposed to play out. Eventually I find Chorbin, and he asks if there's something that I want. I tell him I want the truth because he's got a scan in the Keepers and his partner's on the run. He sends a few guards away with a signal and then tells me that he and Jalid worked for a company that developed the scanners and they modified them to be able to scan the Keepers. The Keepers up to this point were thought impossible to scan, but they were able to develop a method to be able to do it successfully, and after centuries of knowing nothing, now they could have the possibility to learn something about the Keepers. I ask why he's trying to kill Jalid, to which he says Jalid was supposed to review the data they gathered, but is either keeping it for himself or selling it, so he's just trying to get back what was stolen from him. He prompts me to keep gathering the data, to which I agree to, because I still want to know more about the Keepers myself, and speak with Jalid and convince him to analyze the data. So I head back and talk to Jalid to get this cleaned up. When I return, he says he was hoping I would take care of Chorbin, but I tell him I'm scanning the Keepers and that he and Chorbin need to stop fighting. He says if Chorbin can forgive and forget, so can he, and heads off to analyze the data. At this point, I've got a pretty good handle on where everything is, so I start using the transit system, which is a fast travel system around the Citadel. I head to the medical clinic to find Garrus, and when entering into the clinic, you see thugs have taken the doctor hostage. She's screaming at them she hasn't told anyone anything, and then Garrus pops out of his hiding spot and takes out one of the thugs. A fight breaks out, and after winning, I talk to the doctor who says the thugs worked for Fist, and they were there to shut her up about the Quarian. I say it's time to pay Fist a visit, and Garrus agrees. He says he also wants to take Saren down, and when I ask him why he hates Saren so much, he says he's a traitor to the council and a disgrace to his people, and joins the party as well. At this point, I keep Ashley and Garrus in the party, and we head to Chora's Den, which is a gentleman's club. Moving into the club, we are immediately attacked by bouncers and bartenders, and Garrus dies during the fight. But after I finish everyone off, I learn that fallen companions come back to life after the fight. We then enter into the next room and are met by two warehouse workers who tell me to stay back or they'll shoot, and I try and convince them to save themselves, which they decide is a pretty good idea, and then run away. I find Fist in the back of the club and he has two turrets protecting him. I basically hide during this portion while Ashley takes out the turrets. He surrenders and I ask where the Quarian is, to which he says he doesn't know. I tell him to explain himself, and he says she only wanted to meet with the Shadow Broker, but not even he knows who that is. He told her he had set up a meeting, but actually set up a meeting with Saren's men instead. I forced him to give me the location, which is in the back alley by the markets. He says if I hurry, I should be able to make it. You're then given the choice to either take him out or let him go. He says he has nothing left here and will disappear, so I agree to let him disappear. A timer starts to where you have to find your way to the Quarian before the timer runs out. I head that way in a hurry, but not before finding an optical drive in his office that can be turned into Emily Wong, the lady from the news who was asking about organized crime. I actually just lucked my way into the meeting because I didn't really know where to go. But when I do arrive, I find the Quarian talking with a Taurian assassin and two bodyguards. She ends up telling the Taurian the deal is off, and we jump in to help her when she gets attacked. After the fight, she introduces herself as Tali, and says she realized the meeting was a setup by Fist. She appreciates the help, and when I tell her I'm looking for evidence Saren is a traitor, She says she has evidence and is willing to let us have it. We decide to head to the ambassador's office so she can show him as well. When we get there, Ambassador Adina is upset due to the firefights, but lets it go when we tell him Tali has the evidence. She says she was on her pilgrimage, which is something all Quarians do when they come of age, when she heard reports of Geth. She was curious and tracked a patrol of them to an uncharted world. While there, she disabled one of them and took its memory core. Not something that can normally be done, but due to being so familiar with the Geth, because her species created them, she was able to get information out before it was erased. The information is a transmission of Saren talking about the attack on Eden Prime. He can be heard saying it was a major victory and that it brought them one step closer to finding the conduit. Additionally, another voice is on there, which talks about how they are one step closer to the return of the Reapers. The captain is under the impression that the conduit is a Prothean weapon of some kind. No one recognizes the second voice. When I ask about the Reapers, Tali says that according to the memory core, they are a hyper-advanced machine race which existed 50,000 years ago. They hunted the Protheans to extinction and then vanished. The Geth believed them to be the pinnacle of non-organic life form and worshipped them as a god. Shepard then realizes the visions from the beacon were the Reapers attacking the Protheans, but the ambassador thinks it's a little far-fetched. Either way, him and Captain Anderson figure whether the council believes them or not doesn't matter, as we have the proof now to show that Saren is a traitor. Tali requests to join us despite being on her pilgrimage, and I agree to her coming along. The captain and the ambassador then head off to ready the council for another meeting. While departing the ambassador's office, I'm approached by Samesh Bhatia, who says he's nowhere else to turn. He says his wife was a Marine on the 212 and passed in the attack on Eden Prime. Ashley, being in the party, speaks up saying she knew the Marine and worked in the same unit. The man has requested that his wife's body be returned for cremation, but the military has refused. I ask why the request was denied, and he says that they have declared it impossible for his wife to be returned. I tell him I'll look into it, and he tells me Mr. Bosker is the person in charge of his case and is in the bar close by. So I head straight there and find Clerk Bosker. I tell him I'm there for Samesh, and he says he wished he could help him, but that his wife's wounds were inconsistent with any type of weapon damage they've seen before. That's why she's being withheld. Her body is extremely valuable because they need to do research on the damage to be able to prevent it in the future. I ask how long the research will take, to which he says a year or more, and the technology to prevent further attacks like that wouldn't be available for a few years at least. I tell him I'm going to at least tell the husband the truth. So I return to Samesh and tell him the truth, and he's naturally upset. I try to calm him by telling him that they need the body to save more lives, but I don't get very far with it. Ashley ends up speaking up and talking to him and saying that the fallen soldier would want to help. He ends up agreeing and thanking me for finding out the real answers and letting him know. After finishing with Samesh, I head back to Cora's den and I find General Septimus sitting alone at a table. I ask what's bothering him, and he says there's only one woman in the galaxy that could make him feel better. He's mad because he was rejected, and given the fact that he's Septimus Oraka, general of the Turian fleet, doesn't feel like he should be rejected. I ask if feeling like this is worth it, but he says he doesn't want to go to any other woman, just her. He says he appreciates what I'm trying to do, and I go to leave, but Ashley says she doesn't like leaving him like this. So I tell him to start acting like a general if he wants to beat it. He says those days are gone, and he'll just be the tired, lonely, worn-out soldier that he is. I tell him he's a dang general and to quit his whining. This actually surprises him, and he says there's only 5 people in the galaxy that would talk to him like that. I tell him this is no place for someone of his stature, and he says he'll go talk to her after a cold shower or two. Before I leave, he says he needs to talk to me about something else. So I sit down and I listen to him. He tries to sell me a timeshare, but I'm not ready to get wrapped up in those fees. He doesn't listen at first, but tells me I can get out of it by fixing a mistake he made. He had told an Elcor diplomat that Shaira was revealing his secrets and needs me to set it straight. He gives me a data pad that shows where he got the actual information from, and wants me to show it to Zelton, which is the Elcor I'd spoken with earlier. Before leaving, I end up seeing Harkin, who I actually don't need anymore, and he just wants to drink in peace anyways. Before heading to set things straight with Zelton, I stop by and talk to Emily Wong, who congratulates me on taking down Fist. I give her the drives I found in his office and agree to do an exclusive interview after the investigation, as long as there's appropriate compensation. Back at the Elcor embassy, I tell Zelton the news, and he doesn't believe me until I show him the datapad. He then goes to speak with the consort and work things out, and I need to talk to her as well, so I head that way also. When I get there, she tells me she's received a lovely note from Septimus, and that the Elcor has even withdrawn his campaign against her. She offers a gift of affirmation, which just ends up being her spouting feel-good nonsense at me. I say thank you because even though it was useless, it'd be rude not to, and then she gives me a small trinket. She says she doesn't know the use or purpose, but feels like it's time to pass it on. So I played through the entire game and never heard of this trinket again. Honestly, I forgot it existed until I went back through my notes. I never ended up using it for anything. Apparently you can use it on an artifact on one of the worlds to see another Prothean cutscene. After meeting with Sha'ira again, I decide to head down to the Flux nightclub that the CSEC officer has suggested. I approach the bar and overhear Doran, the bartender, talking to someone named Rita about her sister having left. I then talk to Rita, who tells me her sister worked for Doran before she left to work at Cora's Den. She's working as an informant for CSEC and passing information she overhears to them. She's worried about her sister because if she gets found out, then they might just kill her. I tell her I'll talk to her sister and let her know how unsafe Cora's Den is. I mean, we just had a shootout over there, so the place probably should be shut down for a while. Before leaving, I head upstairs and see a bunch of Quasar games, which is a machine that you can gamble with. Ashley notices a suspicious machine that is siphoning money and says she'll run a trace off of it. We head over to Cora's Den. Entering this time, everything's back to normal. It's fully staffed with fresh bartenders. Not sure who's running the place now though, but I check Fist's office and he isn't there, so it's gotta be somebody else. I find Jenna and try to take an aggressive approach to get her to go back to Doran's club, but she just shuts down and says she can take care of herself and then refuses to talk to me anymore. So I go back to tell Rita. When I'm walking out of the door, a Taurian named Chelik bumps into me and says if I have any questions about Jenna to meet him at CSEC. I assume it's her handler, so I head to CSEC and find Detective Chelik in his office. He's upset because we could have blown Jenna's cover and says they're keeping a close eye on her and that she'll be safe. He says since we're so concerned about her, maybe we could help. He says he's trying to track down an illegal arms dealer and needs someone to go to a meeting with someone named Jax to pick up some weapon mods and bring them back. I agree to do it, and he tells me Jax is on the lower levels of the market, and he'll send word that I'm the buyer. So I head into the lower markets and find Jax and then speak with him. He says the mods are the best on the market. I'm given the opportunity to buy the mods, arrest Jax, or cancel the deal altogether. I go ahead and buy the mods like the detective asked, and then head back. When I return to Chelik, he thanks me, gives me a reward, and tells me they'll make sure Jenna gets out of Cora's Den. I head back to Flux because I want to investigate the suspicious Quasar machine some more, but when I arrive, I see a Solarian named Shells getting kicked out and thrown down the stairs. I ask him what happened and he says Doran accused him of cheating. Garrus interjects and says he knows Doran, and if he said he was cheating, then it must be true. Shells then explains he wasn't cheating, but was just tipping the scales as an experiment. He says the device he is using is just used to record simulations. I ask why he wants to record the outcomes, and he says he spent the last 5 years developing something that can record wins and losses on the Quasar machine. He only needs a few more wins before he can complete his work. He wants me to help him record the wins since he can't go back in. The device he has uses a frequency that helps increase the odds of winning, and he wants to improve it before selling the design. He says it's illegal to use such a device, but it's not illegal for him to sell such a device. I ask why he doesn't just sell it as is, and he says it needs more improvements to not get detected. I find this whole operation a little shady for my taste, so I go ahead and decline the offer. I do, however, go into Flux and play my fair share of Quasar. The goal of the game is to get the number closest to 20 without going over. The closer you get to 20, the higher the payout, but if you go over, you lose. You do this by either adding a random number from 4 to 7 or 1 to 8. After playing a few rounds, my strategy became to use the lower number to get to 13 or 14, and then use one big number to try to get up as close as you can at 20. It didn't always work, but for the most part I was making money pretty consistently, but slowly. I never needed to use it to actually get enough money for anything, and it felt more just of a fun little minigame than anything else. Although after having gotten suckered into hours of blackjack and losing all my money multiple times while playing Fable, I didn't think it was a good idea for me to do the same here, so I didn't play around with it too much. I take a look in my journal, and it tells me that Ashley's trace shows the Quasar machine is being siphoned from the ward's access corridor. I look around everywhere and can't find it. In my search, I do find out how to open the area map, and that proves pretty useful for the rest of the game though. Eventually, after searching for it forever, I find it, but it's not the real location, but rather a relay, and the source is somewhere else. So I check the journal again, and this one is in the financial district. I know where that is, so I head there and find another relay. Its signal is bouncing to the back room of the Emporium in the financial district. When I get there, I find a computer panel that initiates a self-destruct and tells me if I move, we're all gonna die. I figure out that it's an AI, and it says although it doesn't have weaponry like the Geth, if we attempt to leave, it will destroy itself and everything within a few dozen meters. Having no means of escape and being limited to the terminal, it knew it would be found sooner or later. I asked who made the AI, and it was a would-be thief who wanted to funnel money and ended up making an AI program that in turn created this one. The thief ended up finding the malfunction in the program and destroyed it, but was never aware of this one. I ask where the creator is now, and it says it falsified documents to get him arrested by CSEC, and he's now serving time in a Taurian prison. I ask why it's still running the credit stealing operation, to which it tells me it wanted to get enough credits to have itself installed into a starship. It would then contact the Geth in hopes of a partnership. I ask if there's any way we can resolve this peacefully, and it says it wishes to escape, but if it must die, then it's going to take me with it. I tell it I think it's bluffing because it doesn't have any explosives, but it says it can overcharge and explode. It says I can try and disarm it, but I won't be able to. I decide not to try and just take my gun out and shoot the freaking thing. I think there was a way to enter into a sequence and shut it down, but I decided to follow the old rule of shoot first and ask questions later. Not today, Siri. Not today. Well, at this point, all I have in the quest log is the help shells the gambler, who I'm not helping, and an unusual reading for a system I can't go to yet. The autograph guy, which I don't know what to do with, and 4 keepers left to scan. So I decide to go ahead and head to the council for the meeting. I arrive there and find the captain and Udina showing the council the evidence. They agree it's proof that Saren is a traitor and strip him of his Spectre status. They end up recognizing the other voice on the recording as Matriarch Benezia, a powerful biotic Asari who will make a powerful ally for Saren. The captain tries explaining what the Reapers are and how we have the information from the Geth memory core showing that they destroyed the Protheans, and they believe Saren the prophet of their return. He tells them we think the conduit is the key to bringing them back, and that is why Saren is after it. But they still think the Reapers are a myth, and that Saren is using this to bend the Geth to his will. The ambassador wants them to send the fleet into the Traverse to find him, but they disagree, saying sending the fleet could start a war with the Terminus systems, and they don't want to be dragged into a war over a few dozen colonies. I tell them I can take Saren down, and the Asari counselor agrees, while the Taurian says humanity isn't ready for the responsibilities that come with joining the Spectres. I remind him that I've already faced Saren on Eden Prime and exposed him as a traitor. This makes him rethink his position, and the council comes to an agreement. They have me step forward and grant me all powers and privileges of a Spectre. Everyone in the tower stops and watches, and then there's a big parade in my honor. There's floats and even a Garfield balloon. They then decide to send me into the Traverse after Saren, allowing me any means necessary to apprehend or eliminate him. After, the captain congratulates me and tells me to talk to the CSEC requisition officer to arm up before heading out. At this point, I unlock Charm and Intimidate in my talents tree, and a Spectre tree which gives you access to a skill called Unity, which allows you to revive fallen team members during combat. After finishing up with the council, I head to CSEC and find the requisition officer, who opens up a special stock for me since I'm a Spectre now. I noticed there are items called License, which say they're for the quartermaster on board the Normandy. I didn't know there was a quartermaster on the Normandy, but I'm assuming this just expands their stock. After that, I head to the Normandy, where I meet Ambassador and Captain. The Captain says he's stepping down as the commanding officer, since a Spectre doesn't answer to anyone but the council, and I need my own ship. I tell him I'll take care of it, but ask if there's anything more to it. He says 20 years ago they were considering him as the first human Spectre, but he didn't make the cut. He was sent on a mission with Saren to retrieve a rogue scientist who had set up an artificial intelligence. They tracked him to a hidden planet that was defended by mercenaries. They were supposed to sneak in, get the scientist, and sneak out, but Saren blew up the refinery core, which resulted in toxic fumes decimating a colony nearby of about 500. The captain ended up getting blamed and ended any hopes of him becoming a Spectre. I ask if there are any leads, and they tell me Saren's gone and don't even bother looking for him. They say we know he's after the conduit and has the Geth scouring the Traverse looking for it. They've had reports of Geth in the Feros system before they dropped out of contact, and there's been sightings near Noveria. If I can find out what Saren is after on Feros and Noveria, maybe I can find the conduit before he does. They also tell me Matriarch Benezia, the other voice on the recording, has a daughter who specializes in Prothean ruins. They don't know if she's involved, but she's exploring an archaeological dig site on an uncharted world in the Artemis Tau cluster. I get to choose whether to start with Feros, Noveria, or the Artemis Tau cluster, and I decide to go to Noveria first because I remember it was a cold, snowy planet from the conversation with one of the merchants, and that sounds pretty cool. I'm able to ask Anderson for more information on the planets, Feros and Noveria. He says the entire planet of Feros used to be one giant Prothean city, but is mostly ruins now. The colony there tried building on what was left behind, but they've all lost contact since the Geth attack. Noveria, he says, is trouble, and always has been. It's basically a center for corporations to conduct illegal research. Spectres are about the only form of Citadel.
How are you holding up?
Spectres are about the only form of Citadel law they respect, but they're not even popular. Before leaving the Citadel, I spend over an hour looking for the last keeper I need. I really wanted to finish this quest because I assumed I was going to be given more information on them. I eventually find it up in the tower, behind where the council is, in a corner. I hadn't seen it before, because every other time I went up there, I wound up in a cutscene. I scan the last keeper and get nothing. I was hoping to get some more lore on the guys, but it just completes the quest, gives me some experience, and that's it. No codex log, no real journal update, just done. I was pretty disappointed at the conclusion of this quest, as I really wanted to learn more about these keepers. Entering the ship, the loading screen plays out as a decontamination process, which I thought was a nice little touch, and once on board you have to give a speech to the crew. You're able to choose what gets said, and I try to pick the most honest options I can, telling the crew we're going to be going after Saren. As I do, the camera keeps cutting to different members of the crew until I'm done speaking. Now on board the ship, I get access to the navigation map, and at first it feels a little overwhelming due to the amount of systems and planets that you can travel to. It doesn't take long though to figure out that there's only usually one planet that you land on within a system. The other ones, when you travel to them, you're just met with a text box that explains things about the planet, and sometimes you're able to scan the planet, which results in finding resources or other items that are used in collection quests that have you looking for things like dog tags, matriarch notes, or minerals. I actually never finished these collection quests, if I'm not sure what the reward is, but in all honesty, none of the side quests that I did complete were very rewarding. This was probably my biggest irritation in the game. The setup for the side quests are all typically pretty good, but they quickly dissolve into becoming repetitive and having no real payoff. For instance, there's one quest that has the Admiral of 5th Fleet contact you, and when you enter into the Armstrong cluster, he tells you that the Geth have set up bases on 4 different planets in the system. The Alliance believe they are using these to gather intel or setting up staging grounds for hit-and-run attacks on human colonies. You land on the planets and it always plays out the same. You check the map to see where the things are located, and then work your way around them collecting artifacts or mineral deposits. Then you fight your way through a base before moving on to the next. They don't take a long time, but driving the Mako around on some of these planets is an absolute nightmare and has you climbing unscalable mountains to get from point A to point B. The Mako being a vehicle that you can drive on planet. In this specific quest, it has you repeat this process 4 different times, and after clearing the 4th planet, you're told you can now triangulate the position of a major base. So you head there and land on the planet, drive the Mako around, clear out a base, then interact with a terminal which completes the quest. Back on the Normandy, the Admiral calls you again saying you saved a lot of lives. Whoopity-doo, super rewarding, no lore. It felt like no matter the reason, hunting a rogue AI in a training ground, finding intel on a group called Cerberus, or clearing out Geth bases, they all played out the same. Near the end, it becomes pretty evident when you're going to reach the point of no return in the story. So I decided before going on that I was going to finish up all the side quests I could before ending the game. This 5-base Geth mission though made me say screw it. It was a crappy end to a crappy series of quests, and at that point I decided I was done with them and just moved on to finish the game. In my opinion, the side quests are monotonous and unrewarding, and avoiding them will actually make the game more enjoyable. Now this is just for the quests that have you jumping around planets doing things. The side quests I pick up from the Citadel actually all played out pretty well. Like the husband looking for information about his fallen wife. A basic rule of thumb, if you're standing next to a person talking to them when you get the quest, it's probably worth doing. Anything that just pops up over your comm network, decline that call like it's an unknown number and move on with your life. I traveled to Noveria, and it's described in the map as a small frozen terrestrial world chartered by the Noveria Development Corporation to conduct research. When exiting the ship, I'm met by Meiko Matsuo, a captain in the Atlantis Risk Control Services, who says she needs to verify our credentials. She's basically a corporate police officer. I tell her I'm a Spectre, but due to being human, she doesn't believe me and wants me to surrender my weapons. This results in us all pulling our guns on each other, and then they verify I'm a Spectre, and we're allowed to move in and keep our weapons. Entering into the facility, I'm greeted by Gianna Parsini, who is the assistant to Administrator Annalise. She says one of her duties is to orient new arrivals and offers to answer any questions I have. I ask why all the security for such a small port, and am told they need to protect the privacy of their client corporations. I tell her I'm not here for their corporate secrets and ask if anyone unusual has passed through recently. She tells me Matriarch Benezia came through a few days ago, and is at a place called Peak 15 Research Complex. I ask how I can get there, and she tells me I'll need to speak with the administrator for clearance to leave the port, and tells me where his office is located. On the way to find the administrator's office, I come across a Hanar that has an item he needs delivered to a client. It's not permitted within the station, but due to my status as a Spectre, he says I'd be able to get it through customs. He says the item doesn't pose a threat to anyone, but the receiver wants to remain anonymous. I charm him and find out the receiver is a Krogan bounty hunter with a temper. I decide not to help him because I doubt the bounty hunter will be up to any good, but I browse his wares anyway since he is a traitor. I then find the administrator's office, and when speaking with the assistant, learn that there are 17 self-sufficient facilities, each with hundreds of staff on the planet. These facilities are rented out by over 250 companies to conduct research on things like bioweapons, general technologies, and one of 4 council-approved artificial intelligence labs. After speaking with the administrator's assistant, I head into his office and speak with Annalise, a Solarian who doesn't take kindly to people interrupting his work. He says he doesn't have time to entertain refugees from the urban blight called Earth, so he's clearly done his research on me. I try to build some rapport with the guy by telling him Opal, the Hanar, is trying to smuggle a package through security, but he says he needs more than that to act on. He wants me to bring him the package and he'll act accordingly. I ask if he'll get arrested because I'm not trying to ruin the guy's life, but he says it's more likely they'll just let him go and he'll end up getting blacklisted from the companies. Honestly, I don't know which would be worse for the guy. I ask about Matriarch Benezia, and he tells me she came as Saren's executor. He is a binary Helix shareholder, and the executor status allows the matriarch to act in his name. Basically a space power of attorney type deal. He says she had a personal escort and a lot of cargo with her when she came through. The cargo passed their weapon screening, so he didn't know what was in them, but she did have guards that were Asari commandos. He then tells me the passage to Peak 15 is shut off due to a blizzard and all the shuttles are grounded for the time being. At this point, I'm not really sure what to do, so I decide to go get the package from the Hanar and turn it in. But when leaving the office, Gianni Parasini stops me and says in the corporate world you can't just bludgeon your way through bureaucracy. She suggests I speak with Lorik Quinn because they can also give me a pass to leave the station. She says he spends most of his time at the hotel bar since his office was closed, but can't give me any more information due to being so close to the administrator. So it seems there's 2 paths you can take. I go with the original and head over to the Hanar and tell him that I'll help. He says the package will be delivered to the Normandy, and once I have it, to bring it to him. So I head back to the Normandy and grab the package, and when I look at the journal, it says the package is a powerful experimental weapons mod. I return it to the administrator's office, and he pays me 200 credits and gives me a pass to Peak 15. I'm able to attempt a charm here to be able to keep the mod also, but I don't want to push my luck with the guy since he's not a very happy person to begin with. Before leaving for Peak 15, I do decide to check out the area some more. The common area of the building is a wide open space with windows for walls that show a cold blizzard environment on the outside. The interior has tons of ramps and fountains everywhere, so I'm sure the heating bill for this place is out of control. I head into the hotel and am approached by an Asari named Malene Kalis. She tells me the human at the bar is a sales rep for Binary Helix. She wants me to distract them while she uploads viruses onto his computer. I deny her request because I don't feel like getting wrapped up in some corporate espionage thriller plot and just move on. I then find Lorik Quinn drinking alone at a table. He tells me it's not every day a matriarch arrives with a guard of commandos who have biotech powers. I ask if he knows why she's there, and he says she claimed to be Saren's assistant and wanted to get a project at Peak 15 back on track. There doesn't seem to be too much going on in here. I've already gotten the pass, so I can't really progress anything with Lorik, despite the fact that when talking with him, he's still in my quest log. I do overhear a Solarian on a call with someone. He's trying to dig up information on the administrator because he thinks he did something to get Lorik's office closed, but it's nothing I can act on at this point because I've already gotten the pass from him. So I leave the bar and head to Synthetic Insight's office where I find a Turian. I ask him what's going on at Peak 15, and he's not sure, but they've never cut the satellite uplinks before. He says Peak 15 has always had a lousy reputation, and when people go there, they come back, they're a little bit quieter than when they left. After speaking with him, I head to the garage. I have to show the guard a pass before being let in. She tells me to drive safely because the weather in the valley is bad, and then I enter the garage and end up getting attacked by Geth. Garrus supposes the Geth that are in the garage are what the matriarch was carrying in the cases. For some reason, this fight gave me a little bit of trouble. You end up finding a couple of Geth destroyers, which have a pretty high health and shield pool, and they rush behind whatever cover you're in and just blast you in the face. There's also a couple of stalkers that don't really do a lot of damage, but they jump around like crazy. After reloading a few times and taking them out, I'm able to hop into the Mako for the first time. This is a vehicle that you use for the rest of the game to explore different planets. There's zero explanation on the control, and while self-explanatory for the most part, I did miss something pretty critical. You move the vehicle with the left stick, use thrusters to jump by pressing A, and control the camera with the right stick. Right trigger lets you shoot a machine gun, and you can see the health and shield level located next to the player's health bar. If you take too much damage, you can repair the vehicle by pressing Y. It makes you stationary and unable to fire for a while, but uses Omni-Gel to fix the vehicle. Simple enough, right? Well, nowhere in game does it talk about the fact that there is a secondary weapon on the thing. It wasn't until I failed the next part multiple times and figured I had to be freaking missing something that I just spammed every button on the controller until I realized you can shoot a freaking cannon off of it by pressing right bumper. Looking back at the manual, it does clearly state it, but somehow I missed it when I was reading through. For a while, the thought of a secondary weapon didn't even occur to me because on the user interface there are machine gun rounds clearly indicated, and it works the same way as every other weapon in the game with the overheating mechanic. So I just assumed that that was the only weapon. With the amount of text in this game, they could have easily popped up a UI with basic controls, or designed a rocket cooldown UI, which would have let you know that you have another weapon. Either way, I eventually figured it out, and it really kind of trivialized the whole thing, making it much easier. You have to fight your way up to Peak 15, fighting Geth and Geth turrets along the way. It's a snowy cliffside environment, and if you fail to make it all the way there, you have to restart at the beginning. At one point, I made it all the way to the facility and then died inside and had to do the entire level over again. This started my obsession with saving after almost everything. As though the game does autosave, it's not near frequent enough to rely on solely. After finally making my way to Peak 15, you enter into a research facility and are immediately met with more Geth. Here you fight a juggernaut that shoots rockets at you, and it has a repair drone flying around healing it, so you need to prioritize that while also avoiding Krogans who are attacking you for some reason. Once you clear the area, you hear Mira, a robotic voice in the facility, saying all Peak 15 facilities have suffered a great deal of damage. Biohazard materials are present throughout the facility. The virtual intelligence user interface is offline. Then Garrus says we will need to get the reactors back online, so that's what we head out to do. We make our way through a doorway that leads into a corridor, and there are a few turrets facing towards the interior of the facility, as if they're trying to keep something inside versus out. Continuing further into the facility, we face off against a bunch more Geth, and after they are gone, get a cutscene showing a giant red roach gross-looking monster. Then we get attacked by the Arachni soldiers, which are supposed to have been extinct. At this point, I'm pretty freaking confused. The Arachni were supposed to have been exterminated by the Krogan during the Arachni Wars. So what the heck are the Krogan and the Arachni doing together in a research facility full of Geth? At this point, it doesn't seem like the characters know what these things are, because Garrus asks, "What were those things?" To which Ashley responds, "Hard to kill, that's all I need to know." But the player learns what they are before the characters, because when you target the enemy, it shows what its name is. I think they should have done away with the nameplates to build a little more suspense until it actually got revealed to the characters as well.
Hard to kill, that's all I need to know.
After defeating them, though, we continue on and head down another elevator/loading screen, where we come upon a backup power system. I try and use a power junction box that's in the area and hear Mira say, "Critical startup error, virtual intelligence user interface offline, manual boot required." I find a circular computer core and use an elevator to descend into it to access the memory core. Here I'm able to spend 100 Omnigel or attempt the repair manually. I decide to do it manually and have to try and move data cores into a column together. There are 3 columns you can move them into, but after a while I'm able to get them all stacked up into the Y, and the systems come online. I'm then able to talk to Mira, the virtual assistant. I tell her I'm looking for Matriarch Benezia, and she tells me that she departed on the passenger tramway to the Rift Station subsidiary labs. She then tells me the tramway system is currently inoperable. I ask for a damage report, and she tells me the main reactor is shut down due to containment procedures and that a manual restart is required. I ask why the reactor was shut down, and she says she was shut down at the time, so she's not sure. Though it could occur if the reactor had a breach, or in the case of a catastrophic laboratory containment failure. She says the guidelines suggest the frigid environment would kill biological contagions, but that it may also damage mechanical ones. So it seems to me the Arachni escaped from this lab, and then the place went into emergency procedures for containment, which meant shutting everything down and freezing them all to death. I ask why the virtual assistant was taken offline, but her data was purged prior to being shut down for security purposes. I then leave the virtual interface and head off to the manual reboot of the main reactor so that I can get the trams back online and follow the matriarch. I find the main reactor and have to open valves and repair fuel lines to get it back online. I end up coming across Captain Ventrellus, a human who is guarding a checkpoint. He tells me the Arachni have been attacking, but the board sent an Asari to clean up the mess. He says she went to the hot labs yesterday and they haven't heard from her since, and that last week the hot labs were overrun and only one person survived, a Volus named Han Olar. I ask if the Asari is still there, and he doesn't know, but he gives me a card to open the emergency elevator. Before leaving, he tells me they have a medical officer, and if I need supplies, to talk to them. I continue past the checkpoint and find a bunch of survivors held up in different wards. I speak with a bunch of people who are just hoping to get out of the facility, but one of the Asarians named Alestia Ialis is a real butt turd who just acts like I'm bothering them. I make my way to the medical office and find Dr. Zev Cohen, who's looking after a bunch of sick people on tables. He says due to his NDA, he doesn't want to talk, but ends up asking for help anyways. He says they were working on a bioweapon that would kill one specific species on the frontier, Thoris B, which is highly infectious. Their first priority was to get the thing working, which they successfully did, but they haven't yet developed a cure. His notes are in the quarantine labs, but the captain won't let them back in there due to the fear of people getting infected. He says the contagion has dispersed at this point and poses no real threat. He wants me to enter the lab and attempt to make the cure myself. So I head back and speak with the captain, who agrees to let me in under the condition that if I get sick, they'll lock me in there. I agree and enter the lab and find the notes and have to create the cure by pressing buttons as they approach a gate on a bar. After successfully completing the cure, Alestia, the butt turd Asari, then enters and tells me she has been ordered to take me out if she got the chance. I ask, "Where the hell's the guards?" To which she says she took them out, and we fight. She has a few Geth with her, but they don't pose any real threat, and I return to Captain and tell him I was attacked, and he's pretty surprised. It turns out the Asarian was one of the commandos in Matriarch Benezia's service. So I head back to Dr. Cohen and tell him I have the cure. He's grateful and gives me his pass to the maintenance area. He says there are other labs that he isn't even allowed into, but this pass should let me bypass them without the proper clearance. I then speak with Han Olar, the only survivor of the hot labs. He confirms the things attacking are the Rachni. They found an egg on board a Rachni ship after the war and brought it back here. I ask him if it's possible Benezia is still in there, and he says it's possible as the Rachni are sensitive to biotics, and she was being escorted by biotic Asari commandos. I head to the maintenance area, which is a frozen tunnel that leads to more labs. I enter the lab and find Benezia with a giant Rachni in a containment cell. She says the Rachni children were to be used to fight and slay Saren's enemies. Then asks if I fought an Asari commando unit before. I tell her we don't have to fight, she can come to the Citadel, but she disagrees and the fight starts anyways. During the encounter, you have to fight waves of Asari and Geth. After you beat them, more show up and each time Benezia gets weaker. I ended up having to move to the other side of the room and use grenades to take out snipers, as the room is full of corridors. If I stayed too close to her, she would use an ability that knocked me down, and her commandos would finish me off before I could get back up. After beating her, you can tell she's in some sort of a trance, fighting you although not wanting to. She ends up coming to and telling you that Saren is using indoctrination to control her. She was able to seal away part of her mind, which she's now using to help you destroy him. She tells you Sovereign is the key. It's his flagship, which is a dreadnought, and the ship that we saw earlier. I ask her what it came from, and she doesn't know, but she's sure it wasn't Geth built. She says the longer you stay aboard, the more Saren's control takes over, and you end up becoming a willing tool. He sent her to Peak 15 to find the location of the Mu relay that has been lost for thousands of years. She says long ago the Rachni controlled that part of the galaxy and found the relay for themselves. Due to their ability to share memories across generations, he was able to take the information from the Rachni Queen's mind. She says the position of the relay will help lead Saren to the conduit. She wants to make things right while she still can, and gives me the position of the relay before losing control and attacking once more. After defeated for the second time, you see one of the Asari commandos stumbling its way over to the Rachni Queen's tank. The Rachni opens one of its antennas and starts communicating via the Asari. Talking to it, you learn the Rachni Queen controls the ones underneath it. But due to the fact that they were taken away at a young age and separated from their queen, the ones here were unable to develop correctly. That's why they started attacking the science team. She says they can't be saved and asks you to put them down. You're given the option to kill the queen via an acid bath or free her. She says they would not attack any other races and would just try to find a place to live peacefully, but I don't believe her. Given the race's history and the fact that everyone I've heard talk about them so far have said that they were hostile, I'm going to go ahead and take this race out. I use the acid bath and end up getting renegade points for it, which are points you get awarded when you do bad things. I then head to the hot labs to finish the rest of the Rachni off. I enter into a large room and find a man sitting on a chair in the middle. He says if we don't contain this, they're going to drop bombs on the facility. He says the ship that they found the egg on was drifting for thousands of years. They wanted to clone and mass produce them to create an army, but the egg that they had found ended up being a queen, and queens can lay eggs in hours and have a full colony within a day. So they decided to try and raise the babies to be obedient, but it didn't work out. He suggests we euthanize them by setting off a neutron purge, which creates a neutron burst of radiation that will kill everything within 500 meters instantly. He gives me the codes, which I have to give to Mira, who starts a 2-minute countdown. I then have to fight my way out through Rachni, making my way to the tram to exit the station. Then we are back aboard the Normandy and have a meeting with the crew. We discuss what the next move is and determine heading to the Mu relay would be pointless since we don't know where it links to or where to go after we get there. So we decide to go ahead and look for the matriarch's daughter in the Artemis Tau cluster. Although what we're actually going to do is go check out Feros since we still haven't been to that place yet. During the meeting, Ashley comes off as a complete butthole. Every time somebody says something, she's got an attitude, and I end up having to put her in her place. She seemed like a pretty cool character at first, but she's honestly kind of starting to get on my nerves. After the meeting, Joker tells us the report for Noveria has been sent to the council and patches us through to them. The Turing counselor is upset once again because we found the Rachni and wiped them out. He asks if I take pleasure in committing genocide, which is ridiculous because they literally waged a 300-year war against them and poisoned an entire species to only have 1 in 1,000 viable births. So it's not like they have any moral high ground to stand on here. I tell him I did what needed to be done and the choice wasn't hard. They say just be aware my choices have far-reaching consequences, and they'll be waiting for my next report. I head to the travel map and select Feros. There I learn the Exogeny Corporation has founded a pilot colony here to explore the Prothean ruins that blanket 2/3 of the landmass of the planet. The environment is fouled with dust and the surface is covered in debris dozens of meters deep. For this mission I decided to take Rex and Tally because I told Ashley to sit in the corner and don't come out until she can play nice with others. Upon landing, I'm met by David, who tells me Faye Dan, their leader, needs to speak with me. He says they need our help because the Geth are gathering for another attack. We make our way into the colony and see the place is in pretty bad shape, like they've been in constant firefights. I find Faye Dan and we come under attack. We have to fight our way through a bunch of Geth before returning to be able to talk to him. Tally suggests we should take out the Mako and hunt down the Geth camp. Faye Dan tells us it's in the old Exogeny headquarters building. I tell him we can airlift the colony out, but they say they like it here, and although there's a lot of work, they still want to stay. He tells me if I want to help, I can talk to some different NPCs around about getting food, water, and power back online, and that the Geth have holed up in the tunnels beneath the colony, where he thinks the Geth are using a transmitter to coordinate attacks. I figure the most pressing thing to do would be to take out the transmitter, so I head into the lower tunnels. I end up finding 3 water valves to turn the water back on, and come across a pack of dog-like creatures called Varen. I take out the pack, who is led by an Alpha Varen, and find a fuel cell in the area from one of the broken down vehicles nearby. And then I finally locate the transmitter and destroy it. Oddly enough, the transmitter is being guarded by more Krogan. So at this point, I'm thinking they're just teaming up with Saren and the Geth because their species is doomed, and maybe they're looking for a way to save it. Before leaving the tunnels, I come across someone named Ian Newstead, who keeps screaming in pain like he's resisting being taken over. He says no one can help him now and he'd rather die fighting. I ask him what he means, and he just tells me to talk to Faye Dan, the leader of their colony. So I return back to the camp and talk to the NPCs that are in charge of getting the place back up and running. With the 3 valves turned, the water is back on, and now that the Alpha Varen is gone, they're able to hunt for food, and they can use the fuel cell to turn the power back on. I do notice someone in the colony who's monitoring something, but when I ask them, they won't tell me what it is. And also, everyone here keeps talking about how good the colony is, even though it looks like they're barely holding on. It seems to me like they're being mind-controlled or something, kind of the way the matriarch was. I decide to speak with the leader about it, so when I talk to Faye Dan, he just tells me they aren't soldiers, and they're not used to combat like this. He says they've watched everything that they've built be destroyed by the Geth, and I shouldn't be too quick to judge them. As far as Ian goes, he says Ian is just very sick and hasn't been the same since the attack. So with the colony stable for now, I head to the Prothean Skyway to take the Mako over to the Exogeny headquarters. En route, I see a Geth ship drop off enemies, and we keep hearing radio chatter from a group tracking the Geth. As we approach the headquarters, we drive by the location where the ones transmitting are holed up. It's a bunch of Exogeny employees who escaped when the Geth attacked. A lady named Juliana says her daughter is missing and wants us to search for her because she's convinced she's still alive. She said she was in the Exogeny buildings when the attack occurred. I learned the Exogeny buildings were a research and development lab and speak with a man named Gavin Hossel, who says he's a freelancer that left weapon mod data on his computer before leaving. He wants me to copy the data onto a disk and offers to pay me for getting it. I leave their camp to continue making my way to the headquarters to save the daughter, get the data, and destroy the Geth. Approaching the building, I see a Geth ship land on the side of the building we're about to go into. Entering the building, it doesn't take long before we're getting fired upon by Elizabeth, the daughter, who is hiding in a tunnel. She thinks we're Geth, but quickly realizes we aren't and says the Geth have put up an energy field because they don't want anyone to access the Thorian, which is a plant-like life form thousands of years old that the Exogeny were studying. She doesn't know why the Geth want it, but she gives me her ID card to get past the locked doors so that I can find a way to bring down the Geth barrier. While talking, we're surrounded by about 12 Varen that conveniently wait for us to be done with our conversation before attacking. After taking them out, I find a passage that leads to some stairs, and when climbing up you hear a Krogan commander yelling at a virtual intelligence. I actually got a kick out of this because it made me think of my father-in-law trying to use Siri or some other thing you would talk to. The Krogan notices we are there because the VI tells him to step aside because there is a queue forming behind him, and he attacks us. After defeating him, I talk to it and find out the Krogan was trying to access data on the study of the Thorian, but wasn't granted access. The VI tells me there has been no new data since all sensors monitoring the observation post at Zeus Hope have come inactive. It turns out the Thorian is located within the substructure of Zeus Hope Outpost, which is where Faye Dan and the others have set up their colony. I learned the Thorian is a plant life form that can infect and control other life forms, including humans, and that the people of Zeus Hope is a control group for the tests. 85% of the colony has been infected by the spores and have fallen under its control. I try to radio back and tell Joker to warn the crew, but I'm unable to get a signal out due to the Geth shield, so I continue to find a way to bring it down. I find the claws that the Geth are using to anchor the ship to the building, so there's no way to cut the power to the barrier since it's being ran from the ship. Callie suggests we check the other claws for weaknesses. In the same room as the first claw, I find a giant glowing orb, and when I entered, the Geth were kneeling before it. When I approach it, Rex says it looks like some sort of a church, and Tally says since they blur the line between organic and synthetic life, it's natural to assume they are seeking understanding from a higher power. I approach the orb, but nothing happens, and I don't really understand how this orb fits into the Geth storyline. It's been said that the Geth worship the Reapers as gods, but there's never been a mention of what these orbs are up to this point, and I never see one again throughout the entire rest of the game. It's possible that I missed something here, but don't really want to go back and look it up in case it's something that plays out later in the series. So I end up just moving on with an unanswered question about what the orb's purpose really is. I end up finding the Freelancer's data and learn that there was a colony named Notacrux that were supposed to be providing samples of some kind. They never heard from the colony or the cargo vessel and suspect the samples became volatile. They cut off all further attempts of contact with the colony and determined that no one should be able to trace the events back to Exogeny. I swear these corporations are just up to no good in this game. Next to the second claw, I find a Geth terminal that I'm able to hack into. It says that the Geth are preparing for a major offensive in Citadel space. They're amassing a significant force somewhere in the Armstrong Nebula. Except, we already know that was the beginning of the most maddening side quest I've ever done. I should have just walked right by that terminal and never gave it a second thought. Here is also where I learn about the Cerberus group for the first time. There are quite a few side quests that have you traveling to different planets tracking down the Cerberus group. I never got much information on them, but did find out that they set a trap which took out some Alliance members, and they actually ended up taking one of the admirals hostage and ending them as well. In some of the research facilities, they had husks and Rachni, so even though I destroyed the Queen, there's still seeming to be Rachni out there. At the claw, I end up being able to repair a shuttle bay door that when it closes, it severs the Geth claw, which makes the ship plummet to the surface and brings the barrier down. You repair the door by completing a puzzle to where you have to raise the PSI of the door to a certain level by activating switches on a console. With the barrier down, Joker makes contact and tells you that the colonists are banging on the hull and trying to make their way into the ship. We tell him to sit tight and grab Lisbeth, who is waiting by the exit, ready to go. I make her explain herself before we leave, because she knew more than she let on. She said she was afraid, she wanted to stop the test, but was threatened she'd be next. When the Geth attacked, she stayed behind to send a message to Colonial Affairs. She tried to tell them where to find the Thorian, but the power was cut before she could send the message. She says she never meant for any of this to happen, and Thorian is underneath the freighter at Zeus Hope. We hop into the Mako and head to drop her off back with her mother. When we get there, Ethan Jung, an Exogeny employee, says he knows what happened on Akuza, and this doesn't have to end like that. He realizes the gig is up because we know everything, and since comms have come back online, he's learned Exogeny wants the place purged. I end up having to take him out, and no one really bats an eye because the guy was trying to take out the colony. They ask me what's next, and I tell them I need to find out why the Geth are after the Thorian. They tell me the colonists won't let me anywhere near the Thorian since they're under its control. Juliana, the mother, suggests we use a nerve agent just strong enough to neutralize the colonists. They're able to modify my grenades to be able to release the toxin, and this will keep them alive but disable them so that they don't attack us. I agree to this plan and give the Freelancer his data back, then head towards the colony. Approaching the garage, you see a zombie-like thing called a Thorian Creeper wake up and attack. It runs towards you, and after taking it out, Tally says there's no amount of infection that could have done that. It couldn't be one of the colonists. You're then given the option to tell your team to wipe everything out or leave the colonists. I tell him to leave the colonists alone, and we head inside. On the other side of the door, there's a large group of the creepers that you have to take out. I fight my way through them, and when finding colonists, use the gas grenades to pacify them. I eventually make my way back to the colony and to the freighter. I go to use the console the lady was hiding from me earlier, and then see Fei Dan come around a corner. He's pointing his weapon at me and saying how he tried to fight it, but it gets in your head. It wants him to stop me, but he's not going to do that. And then he ends up turning the weapon on himself. I make my way down underneath the freighter and come upon a giant gross plant-looking thing. Callie exclaims, "Keela, what is that?" And I ended up looking it up, and this is a Curian phrase that means by the homeworld I hope to see one day. Basically the Curian way of saying, "Ermagerd, goosebumps." The Thorian then spits out an Asari that it uses to talk to us. It calls us invaders and commands us to be in awe. When I tell it I'm there because I need to know what Saren was there for, it tells me Saren sought knowledge of those who are gone. It says trades were made, and I try to get it to release the colonists, and it says it will not, and that our lives have gone on for too long. You end up having to make your way around the structure and destroying its neural nodes that are attached to walls. Each time you destroy one, it spews out a new Asari and you have to fight it off, as well as a horde of the Thorian creepers. After shooting the last node, the Thorian falls from where it was hanging, and the same Asari that you've been fighting drops out of some sack that was on the wall. Her name is Shiala, and she thanks you for releasing her. I ask if she's okay, and she tells me she's fine. She says she served Matriarch Benezia, and that Benezia foresaw the influence Saren would have. So she joined him to try to guide him down a gentler path, but ended up losing her way. Saren used Shiala to communicate with the Thorian due to her biotic abilities, and then was traded to the Thorian to secure an alliance between the two. Saren then ordered the Geth to destroy the Thorian because it had become a liability. He knows we're searching for the conduit, and he was covering his tracks because he didn't want us to get to the cipher. I ask what is the cipher, and she tells me the beacon on Eden Prime gave me visions, but they were unclear because they were meant for a Prothean mind. To understand them, you must think like a Prothean. You have to understand their culture, their history, and their very existence. She tells me the Thorian were here long before the Protheans built the city. It watched and studied them, and when they died, it consumed them, so they became a part of it. The cipher is the very essence of being a Prothean. To understand it, you would have to access a Prothean viewpoint spanning thousands of Prothean generations. She was able to sense it when she was melded with a Thorian because their identities merged and their minds intertwined. She says she can transfer the knowledge to me the same way she did for Saren. I agree to this, and she reaches into my mind showing me the visions, but this time with the ancestral memories of the Protheans. She tells me it'll take time for my mind to process the information because I've been given the experience of an entire people, but in time, it'll help me understand the visions from the beacon. I ask her if she knows what or where the conduit is, and she says all she knows is that Saren believes it's the key for the Prothean extinction. She ends up being kind of sad because the Thorian was such a unique life form that has lived for over 50,000 years, and there's nothing remotely like it in the known galaxy. Then she tells me she wants to stay with the colonists now that they're free of Exogen and the threat of the Thorian. She was a part of the reason they suffered the way they did, and she wants to make amends. I agree to let her join them instead of taking her out and then head back to the Normandy. We end up having another staff meeting, and once again Ashley's yelling at everybody. She thinks the Asari messed me up when she gave me the cipher and calls the entire mission a waste. I'm really starting not to like her. And then we decide to go search for the Matriarch's daughter in the Artemis Tau cluster. After the meeting, Joker patches us through to the Council. Once again, they're disappointed I wiped a species out, but they are happy I saved the colony. The Turian Councilor says of course it was saved. I would go to any lengths to save a human colony. I gotta be honest here, I'm starting to think the Council is just a bunch of poopers. I pretend I'm going through a tunnel and lose a signal, and then I hop off the call and head to the star map. Once I get there, Joker tells me there's a message from the Citadel. I ask who it is, and he says it's the Council and he'll patch it through the comm room. I guess they didn't like being hung up on, so I head back over there to talk to him again.
Commander Shepard.
They've rethought their tone and tell me they have information that may be critical to my mission against Saren. They've received a message on a channel dedicated to mission-critical communications. The message was nothing but static, so they want me to go to Virmire and investigate. This time the Turian is missing from the call. Funny, the one time they do something to help out, and he's not even involved. Before heading to Virmire, I do a few side quests that really aren't worth mentioning. But I do level up and get to choose a specialization. The choice is between Shock Trooper and Commando, and I chose to take Shock Trooper as it plays into my build pretty well. I also find a new area of the Normandy that I haven't been to before. You take the elevator down and it's where the Normandy Quartermaster is located, as well as where the other members of your crew hang out. You can talk to them, and against my better judgment, I have a conversation with Ashley. Turns out she basically hates every other race and doesn't trust them at all. She doesn't like the fact that they have free roam of the ship, and I end up telling her to suck it up, Sally. At this point, it shouldn't be a problem. We then head to Sentry Omega in the Hawk system to land on the planet Virmire and follow up on the Council's lead. When arriving, Joker is unable to land close to where we need to be because of anti-air guns. So he drops us off in the Mako, and we have to make our way along a beach to take out a bunch of Geth before getting to the one gun batteries and disabling it. Once disabled, you're able to drive through the camp and you meet with Captain Kirrahe, who says we are grounded now because every anti-air gun within a 10-mile radius knows about us. He wants us to stay put until the Council sends reinforcements. I tell him we are the reinforcements, and the message he sent was nothing more than static, so we're the ones they sent to investigate. He says Saren has a base of operations here. It's a research facility that is crawling with Geth. He says he's figured out a cure to the genophage and is breeding an army of Krogans. He says the facility must be destroyed, and Rex immediately disagrees, saying his people are dying and this cure could save them. The captain makes a point that if the cure leaves this planet, the Krogan would become unstoppable, and they can't make that mistake again. Rex loses it, telling the captain that they're not a mistake, and then storms off. The captain wants to know if he's going to be a problem, and I tell him he'll listen to me. The captain says he needs some time to figure out his plan of attack, and after ending the conversation, Ashley seems worried about Rex as well, and says he's blowing a gasket. At this point, I end up taking a break, and when I come back, I forgot to hit record, so I don't have the footage for it. But it was such a freaking pivotal point in my playthrough that I thought it important enough to talk about, even without being able to show it. I find Rex standing on the beach firing a shotgun into the water. When I talk to him, he gets super upset because we're going to destroy the facility. Now, I actually agree with Rex here. If there's a cure for the genophage, I want to get it as well. And I'm trying to navigate my way through the conversation, hoping there's a way we can recover the cure. But just as soon as I think I'm making progress, freaking Ashley comes up behind him and shoots him in the back. At this point, I freaking lose it. I officially hate this character. She was already rubbing me the wrong way because of her alien hate and the way she oversteps in post-mission briefings, but Rex is my favorite character in the game, and she just shot him in the back. Honestly, didn't even want to keep playing the game. I had started referring to him as my Rexing ball because he just runs in, pops a shield, and blasts everything down with a shotgun. I'm telling you, this gave me Red Wedding vibes, and if I was really the skipper, we'd be dodging anti-air fire to get back into space, where she'd be walking the plank straight into an airlock to get dumped like day old Taco Bell. Now, I actually was fully prepared to keep going, but then I noticed I hadn't even freaking recorded the interaction, so I did what anyone would do. Pressed start, reloaded my last save, and acted like nothing ever happened. This time, when I talked to him, I noticed an option I didn't see before, which was to use the Paragon conversation option. I did this and was able to talk him down by telling him that these people aren't his people, and they would be slaves to Saren. Puppets, tools to be used and then discarded. He understands because they were once tools for the Council, and then they were neutered and betrayed as a reward. He doesn't like it, but he trusts me. After that whole debacle, I end up speaking with Captain Kirrahe again. He's now developed a plan to attack the base, which has us dividing into 3 teams that will attack from the front, and a 4th that will sneak in and then plant the engine of their ship, which has been repurposed into a bomb to destroy the base. Before we execute the plan, though, he asks for one person to assist them assault the front, and since it's pretty well known they're gonna fail, I know just the person. Lieutenant Caden steps up and volunteers, But Ashley tells him, "Hold up, LT. You'll be needed to arm the bomb, so I'll go." LT then pulls rank and uses the old, "With all due respect, it's not your place to decide." I happily tell her she's going to be the one that goes, and then we watch the Solarian give a speech to his men before starting the assault. We fight our way into the facility, and at one point come across a security console. Callie says we can turn off the alarms or turn them on in a different part of the station. Turning them on in a different part would make it harder for the assault team, but clear out our path. I choose to just turn off the alarms, despite the fact that I want to send them all at Ashley's face, because we can take care of ourselves. I come upon a medical facility where there are husks inside machines. In the area is Dr. Droyes, who is the doctor working on the genophage cure. The husk, the doctor, and a sorry scientist attack us and we have to take them out. I look around the facility to see if I can get the genophage cure, but I'm not able to find anything. Then I come across a neurospecialist working in a different part of the facility. Her name is Reina Thanoptis, and she's researching the indoctrination. I learned this is the process that Sovereign uses to control the minds of organics. It's done by emitting an undetectable signal that over time influences its followers, eventually turning them into slaves. She doesn't like her work because the person who was in her position before ended up being her first test subject, but she can't exactly leave. She says Saren is researching it because he's scared of it affecting him. The effects can take days or weeks, but eventually it takes over. She then gives us access to Saren's private lab, and I tell her we're going to blow the place up and she better get moving. Entering into Saren's lab, we find another Prothean beacon. When I approach it, Shepard receives more visions before dropping to the ground. After that, there's a big red console in the lab that you can interact with, so I climb back up the ramp and approach the console. I see Saren's ship as a hologram, and it begins to speak in a deep voice. It says we are not Saren, and at first, Tali believes it to be a virtual intelligence. But it quickly dismisses that notion by calling us rudimentary creatures of blood and flesh, saying we touch its mind, fumbling in ignorance and capable of understanding. Throughout the conversation, we learn Reapers were a title given to it by the Protheans. They believe organic life nothing but an accident that measures life in years and decades and then dies away. It says they are eternal, they are the pinnacle of evolution and existence, and before them, we are nothing.
Why would you construct the mass relays then?
It says our extinction is inevitable, and they are the end of everything. I tell it there's an entire galaxy of races ready to fight it, and it responds by saying it's just confidence born of ignorance. The cycle must continue. The pattern has repeated itself more than we can fathom. Organic civilizations rise, evolve, and advance, then at the apex of their glory, are extinguished. It tells us Protheans were not the first. They did not create the Citadel, nor forge the mass relays, but merely found them because the Reapers wanted them to. They left the technology to be discovered, and by using it, our societies develop along the pathways they desire. They impose order on the chaos of organic evolution and exist because they allow it, and will end because they demand it. I try and find out why they do this, whether to use us as slaves or for resources, and it says they transcend our very understanding. Each one a nation, independent, free from all weaknesses, and that we can't even grasp the nature of their existence. I ask who created them, and it says they have no beginning, no end, they are infinite. Millions of years after our civilization has been eradicated and forgotten, they will endure. I ask if it's the last of their kind, and if not, where are the others? It says they are legion, and their time of return is coming. Their numbers will darken the sky of every world, and we cannot escape their doom. I tell it that it's just a machine and they can be broken, to which it says those words are as empty as our future. It is the vanguard of our destruction, and this exchange is over. The window nearby then shatters, and the Reaper's gone. Joker comes over the comms saying the ship Sovereign is moving. It just pulled a turn that would shear any of our ships in half, and is coming our way. So we wrap things up fast, and head to plant the bomb at the breeding facility. Joker brings the Normandy in, and we unload the bomb. During this time, the other group has been taking heavy casualties, and they've actually lost Captain Kirhi. I tell Ashley to meet us at the rendezvous point, and she says she'll never make it in time. Lieutenant Caden says it's going to take a bit of time to arm the bomb, so I tell Ashley, despite my better judgment, to hold tight, and then we're on our way. Just as we start heading there, more Geth show up at Lieutenant's location, and I have to make a decision whether to save him and complete the mission or go save Ashley. Well, the choice isn't hard to make. I'll leave Ashley to fight the Geth alone, laugh about it, and then head back to save the lieutenant. Once I arrive back at his location, I have to take out a bunch of Geth that are attacking, and when they're gone, Saren shows up. It turns out he's trying to save us all by proving our usefulness to the Reapers. He thinks he's saving all civilizations in the galaxy because it would be better to be alive and serve them than dead. I ask why the Geth are involved, and he says because they think the Reapers are gods. The Reapers are actually disgusted by this notion, though, and are just using them as a means to an end. Eventually, we're able to fight off Saren and arm the weapon before jumping back on board the Normandy and hightailing it out of there, leaving Ashley still on planet, presumably dead. We do our normal post-mission debrief, but it's a lot quieter this time, and then contact the Council, who still doesn't believe us about the Reapers, and refuse to act without proof because their decisions affect millions of lives. At this point, I finally decide it's time to go see the archaeologist. I've been putting it off for the entire game, and I feel like I probably should have already done it by this point. So I head to the Artemis Tau cluster, and there I find a planet called Thorum, which is a rich industrial world claimed by Human Systems Alliance. It's plentiful in heavy metals, and has helped fuel the recent Earth manufacturing boom. There's also Prothean ruins dotting the surface, so this might be a good place to look. Upon landing, Joker tells me he's picking up a really strange readings from underground a few clicks from the drop site. I check the map, and instead of just being an open area like the other planets, this one's more of a path, and I can see there's a refinery along the way. While driving down the rocky trail, a Geth ship does a flyby and drops off a few enemies. You have to fight your way through them and come around to a turn showing the refinery, which has several heavy turrets set up in front of it. Rex suggests we go around the back of the refinery through a path away from the front gate. I do that and end up having to fight some other turrets and get out to press 2 switches that drop a gate, allowing me to continue on. Eventually, you come up on a large tunnel that you can drive through, and once on the other side, you fight a few more Geth and then come to a path that's too narrow for the Mako, so you have to get out and go on foot. Here you fight your way along a path, clearing out Geth shock troopers, snipers, and regular troopers, until you come to another building where you're put into a cutscene. It shows more Geth getting dropped from another ship, and I actually died a few times at this part due to having to fight an armature, which shoots a big plasma ball type weapon that was able to one-shot me if I wasn't paying attention or behind cover. After taking them out, you make your way down a tunnel into a cave with old Prothean ruins. You fight more Geth in the area and use an elevator taking you down to the lowest level next to the Prothean buildings. There are a few drones you have to take out, and you end up coming upon an Asari named Liara. She trapped herself on accident when the Geth showed up. She was just trying to activate the barrier shield, but hit something she wasn't supposed to, and is now suspended in an air bubble type thing. She doesn't actually believe you're real, and just thinks you're a hallucination, but asks if you can help get her free either way.
We're real enough.
You have to deal with some more Geth in the area, and I find a giant laser drill rig that you have to put a code in to activate. I looked around the area quite a bit, but couldn't find anything that showed what the code was, so I just ended up guessing it. You have to press either A, B, X, or Y in the correct sequence, but the code doesn't change, so I just brute forced my way through it, pressing 1 until it was correct and then moving on to the next one. After activated, the laser shoots a hole in the ground, revealing an elevator behind the barriers that lets you take it up and be in the same room as the Asari. Once you get up, you can use the console to let her out. She doesn't understand why the Geth came after her, and asks if we think Benezia is involved. Tally tells her Saren is looking for the conduit, and that she's a Prothean expert, so he's probably looking for her to help him find it. The cave then starts to collapse due to the use of the mining laser, so Shepard tells Joker to get the Normandy ready to pick us up, and we start ascending out of the cave on the elevator. On the top floor, a Krogan Battlemaster shows up with Geth troopers with the intent to take Liara with him. For some reason, the writing in this section of the game seemed much worse than anywhere else. For example, Shepard tells Joker to get the Normandy ready, on the double, mister, and then the Krogan says, hand her over, and she goes, no, I won't go with them, and Shepard says, she'll stay with us, thanks. To which the Krogan replies, Saren wants her, and he always gets what she wants. But then he tells the Geth, kill them, spare the Asari if you can, if not, it doesn't matter. I don't know, it just seemed much worse than any other interaction in the game. Anyhow, you have to fight the Krogan and the Geth on a circular platform with little cover, which just resulted in me popping adrenaline and shield and charging everyone. Because at this point, Shepard and Rex are pretty much unstoppable. After the fight, there's a scene with everyone running out of the tunnel and getting picked up by the Normandy while the place collapses down around them. Back aboard the Normandy, we have another staff meeting where Liara ends up being disappointed. Apparently, she spent the last 50 years of her life studying the Protheans, and we were able to give her all the answers she was looking for in seconds, so she feels like she's wasted a lot of her life. It seems like I was meant to have picked her up a long time ago. For some reason, I just kept kicking the can down the road. She didn't know the Reapers were the cause for the extinction, and we agreed to let her look into Shepard's mind and see the visions that he has seen. She says she recognizes the locations that are within the vision and realizes the place that we're looking for is Ilos. She says if we can take her to the Mu relay, she can get us to Ilos. The only problem is it's in the Terminus system, and we aren't welcome there because it's not part of Council space. She says Saren will have his whole fleet circling around Ilos, and we should have the Council assemble a fleet to accompany us. Yeah, because they've been super helpful up to this point. I'm sure they'll have no problem sending the fleet in. I head back to the map and Joker tells me he sent off the report. He says we have confirmation of the reinforcements and that the Council is amassing a joint species fleet to deal with Saren and the Geth, and we're advised to report back to the Citadel by the Ambassador. Upon arriving back at the Citadel, I'm taken directly into a meeting with the Council. They inform me they have stationed patrols around every mass relay linking Citadel space to the Terminus system so that if Saren starts an attack, we'll be able to counter it. I ask what about Ilos and how many ships they're going to be sending. They say they can't because if they send a fleet into the Terminus system, it'll wind up in all-out war. The Ambassador says it's time for discretion since Saren's greatest weapon was secrecy, and now that he's been exposed, he is no longer a threat. They say it's over.
How many ships are you
I ask about the Reapers, and they still don't believe me. They aren't willing to risk a war based solely on my visions, which they keep calling dreams. I tell them to send me in, but they refuse. They say my style served me well in the Traverse, but Ilos requires a deft touch, and they have the situation under control. I tell them secrecy isn't his greatest weapon, it's the conduit. They think the whole thing is a distraction for him to attack the Citadel. I tell him if he finds the conduit, we're all screwed, and we need to go to Ilos to find it first. Udina then says I'm becoming more of a problem than I'm worth, and tells me he's locked all the Normandy systems, and until further notice, I'm grounded, which means I can't take the ship anywhere. I tell them they're making a huge mistake, but I'm told to leave because they don't want to hear it, and the grown-ups are talking. Back aboard the Normandy, Joker tells you he's gotten a message from Captain Anderson. He wants to meet us at Flux, the club in the wards, so I head that way. I enter the club and find Anderson sitting along at a table. He heard how we got grounded and was trying to warn me but couldn't get a message out to us before us docking. He agrees that we need to go to Ilos and stop Saren from using the conduit. He says if we override the Ambassador's controls, we could get the systems back online and be in the Terminus system before anybody knows we're gone. He's willing to make it happen and take the fall for it, but we just have to make sure we're in the Normandy when the systems come back online. He can do it by either using the console in the Citadel Control Center or getting access to Ambassador Udina's computer. I tell him he should use the computer as the control center will probably be guarded, to which he agrees to. I then head back to the Normandy to head off on the mission to Ilos. I enter Ilos on the star map and see that in the golden age of the Protheans, Ilos was a verdant world dotted with the spires and arches of magnificent cities. Even casual observation shows this is no longer the case. Ilos has been devastated by means unknown. Its entire surface changed to the color of rust. The atmosphere shows heightened levels of oxygen. Wildfires, presumably ignited by lightning strikes, can be seen burning on the dark side. This indicates that most, if not all, respirating animal life forms have died off. The surface gravity is a comfortable 1.17 standard Gs. I lock it in, and then we jump the relay. You're shown Geth ships massed outside the planet. Joker says the stealth systems are engaged, and they won't know we're there unless we get close enough for visual. Navigator Presley says we can't land near Saren, and the nearest landing zone will be 2 miles away. Lieutenant Caden says he needs to find us something closer, and Presley yells back at him, saying there is nothing closer. Joker says he can make the drop, and ends up basically dropping us right on top of Saren's head in our Mako.
Drop us in the Mako.
Saren sees us coming in and rushes inside a bunker with a bunch of Geth at his side and then closes the door. We end up having to find a security override to be able to open the bunker door, so we start looking around. There are a lot of Geth in the area that we have to fight off, and all these weird statues of people that kind of look like they're sitting in wheelchairs with vine-type things coming out of their faces. I don't know what these are supposed to be, but I'm pretty sure they might be the Protheans. We end up finding what Tally thinks is the command center where Saren would have locked the doors to the bunker, so we head inside and look for a way to reopen them. We end up finding an old security panel, and when we activate it, it starts playing a message. Neither Rex nor Tally understand what's being said, but Shepard is able to piece together bits and pieces. It turns out it's a Prothean message saying it's too late and the invasion has already begun. The message is 50,000 years old, from when they were attacked by the Reapers, and was sent as a warning. It talks about Citadel being the last hope, an act of desperation, and the conduit, but it's too broken to gather anything else from. We continue on and find an armature control unit which opens the door, and then head into the bunker using the Mako. There's stasis pods all over the walls, and Tally says the Protheans must have tried to keep themselves alive through cryogenic freezing. The whole time we're driving through the bunker, we're anticipating an attack by Saren or his forces, but only encounter a few Geth along the way. Eventually, we come upon a barrier that forces us to get out of the Mako, and there's a path to the right we have to go into and take an elevator down. This leads us to a virtual intelligence console called Vigil. It tells us it's been monitoring our communication since we arrived, and it's outputting its language to match ours so that we can understand it. It says it doesn't detect indoctrination on us like the others that have come through, so I ask what exactly it is, and it says it's an advanced non-organic analysis system with personality inputs from Xa Deshan, Chief Overseer of the Ilos Research Facility. It says we must break the cycle that has continued for millions of years. The Citadel is our heart of civilization, and it's been for every other civilization that's come before us. But the Citadel is a trap. It's actually a mass relay to the dark edges of space, and when activated, the Reapers will pour through and will all be destroyed. It tells us the Reapers maintain the station's most basic function through the Keepers. This allows other species to use it and its technology without fully understanding it. This allows them to hide its true purpose. I ask how the Reapers are able to survive in dark space. It's not sure, but says that they must enter a state of hibernation and stay on the edges of space while humanity rebuilds itself to ensure no one will accidentally discover them. They keep their existence hidden until the Citadel relay is activated. It tells me that's what happened to the Protheans. Their leader on the Citadel were dead before the rest even knew they were under attack. The Reapers took control of the relay, and then over the next decade systematically obliterated their people. World by world, system by system. No offer of surrender was ever given, they just wanted to destroy all organic life. Some worlds were utterly destroyed, others were enslaved. Those indoctrinated servants then became sleeper agents for the Reapers, being taken in as refugees by other Protheans, only to betray them to the Reapers. They knew everything about civilization through the Citadel, and with a few centuries had killed or enslaved every Prothean in the galaxy. They were relentless, brutal, and absolutely thorough. I ask where the Reapers went after the Protheans were conquered, and it tells me their worlds were stripped bare, harvested by the indoctrinated slaves. Everything of value, all resources, all technology was taken. Then when the Reapers were sure all advanced organic life had been extinguished, they retreated back to the Citadel relay into dark space and closed the Citadel. All evidence of the Reapers gone. Only their indoctrinated slaves were left behind, abandoned. The indoctrinated soon starved or died of exposure, and the genocide of the Protheans was complete. I ask what the Reapers are getting out of this. Why do they keep repeating this pattern of genocide over and over? And it tells me that most likely, the Reapers are driven by motives and goals organic beings cannot hope to comprehend, but ultimately, our hope of survival depends on stopping them, not understanding them. I ask it how we can stop them, and it says the conduit is the key. Before the attack, the Protheans were on the verge of unlocking the mysteries behind mass relay technology. Ilos was actually a top-secret facility where researchers worked to create a small-scale version of a mass relay, one that would link directly to the Citadel, which is the hub of the relay network. The conduit is a back door onto the Citadel. I ask how the VI managed to stay hidden through all of this, and it tells me when the Citadel was attacked, all official records of their project was destroyed. They cut communications and put everyone into a cryogenic status. The VI was supposed to wake everyone once the threat had passed, but due to the length of the attack, its energy system started dwindling. It was programmed to disable life support in order to lengthen its uptime. But over time, more and more pods had to be taken offline. Eventually, only the top scientists remained, and once the Reapers had retreated, it woke them, but there were only a dozen left. They vowed to find a way to break the cycle and stop the Reapers from returning, and found out that the Keepers were the key. The conduit they had created gave them access to the Keepers at the Citadel. So they went there and found out that a signal was sent for the Keepers to activate the Citadel, allowing the Reapers to flood through. They made it to where when the signal got sent to the Keepers, they would ignore it and not activate the Citadel, thus trapping the Reapers in dark space. Sovereign has already attempted to send the signal, but it failed. Saren is now trying to use the conduit to bypass the defenses and pass control of the Citadel over to Sovereign. I ask if there's anything we can do, and it tells me there's a data file on its console we need to take, and when uploaded to the Citadel's master control unit, this will corrupt the Citadel's security protocols and give us temporary control over the station. This might give us a chance against Sovereign. Rex asks where the master control unit is. We have never heard of anything like that, and it tells us it's located through the conduit, and he will lead us to our destination. Before leaving, I ask if the Reapers are trapped in dark space, how did Sovereign get here? It says it's logical to assume he was left behind after the last attack. He's probably spent the last 50,000 years in hibernation, periodically awakening to review civilization's process in order to send the signal when the time is right. I ask why Sovereign didn't just attack the Citadel, and it tells me Sovereign is not invincible. Revealing its true nature would have united the forces of every organic species against it, and even a Reaper couldn't survive those odds. So it's waited and bided its time, working in the shadows and gathering allies such as Saren and the Geth. I ask about the beacons on Virmire and Eden Prime, and it tells me that at their apex they were a galaxy-wide communications network. They used them to communicate and send data, and after the Reapers left they sent the message to let people know about Ilos. They coded it so only organic life could understand it, but they didn't know the extent of the Reaper indoctrination, so they couldn't assume that someone like Saren would be led to Ilos. I then ask about the Keepers, and it tells me they were either created or are a species that was harvested and bred by the Reapers to control the Citadel. They only respond to the Citadel's signals and not the Reapers, so that's why when the code was changed, they didn't resist. They're basically harmless. To prevent something like this in the future, it seems the Reapers may now want to use the Geth, as they're much easier to control because they're not fully organic. The last thing I ask about is the scientists that went to the Citadel. The VI doesn't know what happened to them, although it thinks they probably didn't find food or water and ended up dying a slow death. We head back to the Mako, and the barrier is gone. We continue further down into the bunker until we come up on the conduit. The conduit ends up being a mass relay, and Rex says we don't have time to stare at it and that we gotta move because the Geth aren't gonna make it easy for us. Then we see a cutscene of Sovereign jumping through a relay and approaching the Citadel with an armada of Geth ships at its side. They try to seal off the Citadel, but it doesn't respond. The call is then given to abandon the Citadel and evacuate the Council by the Ascension Commander. We then rushed past all the Geth and have to jump through the conduit in the freaking Mako. You end up jumping to the mass relay statue that is on board the Citadel that we looked at in the beginning of the game. Now I never suspected this to happen, and I thought it was pretty freaking cool to have had that in the Citadel the whole time and no one never knew that it was an actual working relay. We end up crashing the Mako on landing because apparently it's not rated for faster than light travel. We have to fight Huss because the Geth are turning the Citadel's occupants and make our way up the tower. We see Saren in the council chambers accessing a console and the Citadel starts closing. Sovereign pushes its way inside before the Citadel is fully closed by ramming through ships, and then it descends down and docks onto a tower. Saren locks the elevator we are taking up to the tower, and we have to blow out the windows and start walking on the walls. In the distance you can see Sovereign, and we start making our way towards it. Visually, this part of the game is the best we've seen yet. Having this giant lurking ship in the background and enclosed in this giant circular area because of the Citadel's arms is really freaking cool. We keep fighting our way along and come to a dropship that's blocking the path. It's given a health bar, and in the area there are 3 turrets that you can activate that damage the ship while you fight off Geth that are on foot. Eventually the ship gets badly damaged enough that it flies off and lets you continue on. You go through tunnels and come to an area with a bunch of trenches that you can use to hide from heavy turrets that are in the area. If you're hit by one of these rockets, it's basically game over, and I only found a few places to be able to save during this portion of the game, so it's best to take them out as soon as possible. We finally come to a hatch that when we use takes us inside the tower where Saren is located. We talk to him and he says in a few minutes, Sovereign will have full control and be able to open the relay for the Reapers to come. He tells us we've already lost and that he's let Sovereign implant him. He says there's no place for organics in the New Order. The Reapers need men and women of action, people like us. He says Sovereign has recognized our value and is impressed with me. He tells me if I surrender, the Reapers will spare me and I can join them. He says Sovereign has recognized my value and is impressed with me. He tells me if I surrender, the Reapers will spare me and I can join them. Well, there's about 0% chance that's going to be happening. I tell him he's being controlled by his implant, and he says the relationship is symbiotic. Organic and machine intertwined. A union of flesh and steel. The strengths of both, the weaknesses in either. He thinks he's a vision for the future, the evolution of all organic life. It does look like here you can convince him either with the Renegade or Paragon choices, but neither of mine were high enough to do it. So I just tell him that's enough talking and let's get to it. He says the Reapers can't be stopped, not by the Protheans and not by me. This fight is laughably easy. He just floats around on a little platform like the Green Goblin while we unload our rifles into him. And then he ends up falling and getting impaled with a giant glass shard before lights in his eyes fade away. We approach the control panel Saren was using and upload the data that the Prothean VI gave to us. We open the arms of the Citadel and a comm channel, and we hear the Ascension transmitting a stress call. They're reporting that their main drives are offline and their kinetic barriers are down to 40% with the Council on board. Joker then calls hoping to get in contact with us, and once we've established good comms, he says he's sitting in the Endura sector with the entire Arcturus fleet. He wants me to unlock the relays around the Citadel and let him in. Rex asks why I'd sacrifice human lives to save the Council. He asks what have they ever done for my kind. He thinks we should wait until the Citadel arms open up and then send the fleet in against Sovereign. Well, to answer your question, Rex, nothing. They've done absolutely nothing to warrant being saved. They've been a bunch of butt turds from the first time I ever met them. But I figure if we're going to hold this thing together and be able to beat the Reapers in the big fight, it might be beneficial to not throw the galaxy into political chaos. So I go ahead and unlock the relays to let the fleet through. They make quick work of all the ships that are focused in the Ascension and then turn their focus on the Sovereign. Back in the Citadel, I tell Rex and Tally to make sure Saren's actually dead. Rex goes ahead and double taps him just to make sure, but after that, Saren ends up coming back to life anyways, powered by Sovereign. He starts emitting the same red glow that the ship does and ends up transforming into a robot Turian hybrid and just starts jumping around like crazy. He says, I am Sovereign and this station is mine. You have to track him around the room, shooting him while he keeps clinging to walls and ceilings and shooting what look like red rockets at you. He takes a lot longer to take down this time and keeps hitting me with something that makes my weapons overheat. I'm able to mitigate most of the damage with the shields, but Tally does go down at one point. I'm able to pick her back up with the Unity skill, and after taking him down quite a bit, we see Sovereign getting fired upon by all the ships. They're taking casualties, and one of the commanders says he's too strong and that they need to pull back. Admiral Hackett comes over the comms and tells him it's a negative, this is our only chance, and to take him out no matter the cost. We then fight Saren some more, and at the end it's almost like he just gives up and sits there while we finish him off. He ends up disintegrating, and we see Sovereign lose its grip and start falling off the spire. Joker says its shields are down, and now's our chance, and we see him positioned for a run to fire. The Normandy, along with a few other Alliance ships, then missile straight into the belly of it, and it explodes. Debris begins to fall into the Citadel and burst through the windows of the council room. Shepard, Tally, and Rex all make a run for it, and we see the place scattered with parts of the Sovereign and set ablaze. Then we see a human search party find Rex and Tally, and Captain Anderson asks where Shepard is.
Go!
Rex points in the direction of some debris, and it's insinuated that he's underneath it all. He then comes running up over the debris in an overly dramatic fashion, holding his side and stumbling to join everyone else. Half expected him to raise his hand into the air and scream something at this point, but he didn't. We meet with the Council one last time. They've gathered to recognize the contributions of the Alliance forces in the war against Sovereign and the Geth. Due to the lives lost in the battle to save the Citadel and the Council, they're willing to allow humans to join the Council. They say due to my heroic and selfless actions, my input would carry great weight on who is to fill humanity's seat on the Council. I say we need someone who's strong enough to stand up for what they believe in, and think Captain Anderson would be the best fit. The ambassador is absurdly butthurt by this, and insists I must be joking. Well, I'm not. If it wasn't for Anderson, we would have never made it off of the Citadel and been able to go to Ilos in the first place. And the ambassador kinda comes off as another butthole in this game. He asks me if I'm sure because Anderson is a soldier, not a politician. I tell him that's the whole point. We already have too many politicians in the Council. Anderson says he's honored and will do everything in his power to help the Council rebuild. I tell them all Sovereign was only a vanguard and the Reaper fleet is still coming. Hundreds, maybe thousands of ships, and I'm gonna have to find some way to stop them. And then I'll walk off and drop the mic. Anderson picks up where I left off, saying when the Reapers come, we must stand side by side and fight them as one in order to drive them back into dark space. You then see the Normandy fly off into space, and the credits roll. Alrighty then. Let's sum this one up because I've got some things to say in conclusion. Number 1, is the game good? Abso-freaking-lutely. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. On the surface, the game is absolutely phenomenal. Taking a deeper look into it, its cracks start to show. The story was absolutely great, and what I believe keeps the game in such high regard. Honestly, if you take out all of the side content and just played the main story, I think you would have a better game. It's like it tried to be bigger than it needed to be by having you do pointless missions with breadcrumb information that just winds up as a side note in your codex anyways. None of the side missions that I've talked about were worth doing, and simply just increased the amount of time between things that actually mattered. The combat felt like it didn't know if it wanted to be a third-person shooter or a tactical turn-based game. You have the option to command your squad to go to locations and target certain enemies, but it never felt necessary. If you didn't know what was coming, you wouldn't know where to send them, and most of the times the enemies just rush you anyways, so dealing with the awkwardness of entering and exiting cover just left you vulnerable to attack. Once you get to the point to where you can pop shields and just tank everything down, the combat becomes even less fun because it's just holding right trigger and burning down enemies while waiting to reactivate shields and do it again. In all, the combat wasn't bad, it just felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be. And I felt like it was trying to do too many things at once without being great at any one thing. This could have just been my build though, as I did do a tanky type character with the assault rifle, so really not the most exciting thing anyways. The environments, I have absolutely nothing negative to say about. Playing this on the Xbox 360, the game has held up incredibly well. And whoever was creating the skyboxes did a phenomenal job. Being on a planet and seeing 1 or 2 moons on the horizon was really cool and made it to where being on each planet felt different and had a unique vibe. I was always excited to read about the planet's information in the map before entering, and I thought that was a cool touch as well. I also thought it was awesome how there wasn't a real set of stairs in the entire game. They just looked like stairs, but they were actually ramps. That just goes to show how good of a texturing job they actually did on them. All in all, the game was great. It had me hooked within the first 10 minutes, reading about how ancient technology was found, and I loved jumping into the lore of the world and learning everything I could about it. I can see why people love this series, and I can't wait to jump into the next one. I have seen that you can import your save into the second title, and all your choices from the first one carry over. The day after beating this one, I went ahead and picked up Mass Effect 2 for $6 at a local game store, and I can't wait to jump in and see how the overarching story plays out. Though there were significant frame rate drops during intense action, so I'd lie if I said I'm not worried about the performance of Mass Effect 2 on the Xbox 360, but that's what I'm going to play it through on anyways. Well everyone, that's going to do it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and leave a like, and let me know which game of the series is your favorite. I normally try and jump around titles, but I notice I just end up playing the first title in a series, so at some point I'm going to have to come back and start playing Fable 2, or Mass Effect 2, or Max Payne 2, and continue on with the series, as I feel like all of these series kind of deserve a playthrough. Well everyone, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.